Be recording.
Oh, like now? Hello, welcome to episode 12 of the Love Both podcast project. Nope, didn't know the title. I'm Mike Robertson, along with Mike Taylor, and this week our special guest is our good friend Beth Callan. Thanks for joining us, Beth.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So, Beth, we usually ask the same question
Okay.
to our guests to start every week, even though I have a much more important question because you're also definitely the first person we've had on the show that was born after the entire run of the show. So there's questions about that. But to start off, have you ever been on a cruise?
I actually have been on a cruise. I've been on one, and I think it might be, I would say if you asked me then, I would say this is my first and last cruise I'm ever going to go on. And then I think recently I've warmed up to it again. So
Really?
it might just because time has passed and I forgot the horror of it.
What
of
was
what it
the
was.
what was the horror? Was it food related? Because that's my
Uh,
nightmare going in. No.
No, well, I do have an allergy, so I do get frightened about that. But
Sure.
I have this fear of like not having food or having bad food, or what if I hate everything on it?
Mhm.
No, the horror is just like being on a boat in the middle of like the deep sea, and you're just kind of floating there, and the amount of people that they pack on the ships. Like me stuck on a ship with tons of strangers is like my worst nightmare.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm right there with you.
No, we're all in the same boat with that. I mean,
Yeah,
I just
right.
can't imagine a worse. Now, I don't think this episode was particularly insightful in
Right.
terms of cruise activity, but was there anything in this that you were like, nope, that's not realistic for a cruise, or yes, that's totally realistic for a cruise?
No, it actually felt pretty realistic. I think maybe the runaway thing in general was kind of a little bit of a false storyline. I did have a question. Is every episode a different cruise, like a different charter?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Got
from what we've been able to gather, they're self-contained 10-day cruises.
So this is over a course of 10 days, this whole
That's
storyline.
that's what we're working with. Now we
Mm.
had one last week that was a special Christmas cruise that felt like it was shorter
It was like
because
4
for
days
the
or something like that.
for the super lonely people to go on a Christmas cruise, but for
And
the
New
most part
Year's.
we're working with
Yeah.
10 days. Yeah.
Yeah, you get Christmas and New Year's if you took a 10-day Christmas cruise,
Right.
likely.
Yeah.
Well,
Because
you'd probably want to put that together as a package. Like,
yeah.
spend
And I'm
all your
sure that they
holidays.
do, a big thing for New Year's Eve there
Oh,
on the
yeah.
cruise.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
I wonder if they do Thanksgiving on a cruise.
I
Like, that
mean,
doesn't seem like a cruise-like event, but I bet.
I guess if you've really got like your
Somebody.
entire family to go on a
I
cruise.
think that they probably do
I
because
bet.
they have the carving stations, like the meat carving stations. I feel like adding a turkey in there really isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing poultry isn't something that can go bad or cause rampant, food poisoning. That's
Yeah.
easy. Done
Plus
and
it's
done.
like
Okay.
it's like, oh, happy Thanksgiving, you, your loved ones, this weird
Right.
couple from
The
Sarasota.
Andersons,
Like
the
it's just like
Osborns. Yeah.
yeah.
This old boss I once had, not Mike, but a different boss, he he actually went on this cruise ship called the World, and it never stops cruising. Like it stops at ports, but it just is like it's a 365 all year round cruise ship, and it's so exquisite. And it has a hella landing pad at the top. It has like
Wow.
a golf course. Like it's very exquisite. It's for like the 1%ers of the world.
Sure. Wow.
And
that
I
sounds
remember having to book this for him, thinking this is living.
That's
I
not,
wonder how
or
that
that's
works.
like when you would fall asleep after a long night on the L and it would just go back and forth a bunch of times and you end up between Virgin Pratt and 69th Street. It's the
I mean, it's
exact
the same
thing.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, but a
exactly.
lot cheaper.
Exactly. Until that time you end up in the shipyard, which definitely didn't happen to me. So Beth, we'll sprinkle it in, but I am curious, just first impressions. You'd never seen any episode of Love Boat, correct?
Never.
Mhm.
I
So
heard the theme
besides the
song,
theme
though. I've heard
song,
the
did you know
yeah.
anything? Yeah.
It's a great
No, I
song.
knew nothing about it.
We I think we've kind of come to the same realization. I think we assumed we had seen more than we have.
Yeah.
Um
Hmm.
and they certainly have, besides the song and just the general beats. I don't know that we did either.
Mhm.
But first impressions of a 45-year-old television show that probably made no sense getting dropped in the middle of.
Yeah. I actually was like, my first impression was, I wonder how much of this would make it on TV today. because I think like my
Mm.
first impression was like, are the jokes still going to track? Is everything going to be so outdated, or like is there going to be a lot of just things that like would not hold up today or would
Yeah.
be canceled today? Because I
Mm.
think about The Office, like if you were to air The Office today, it would half the show would be canceled after episode 2. So I was kind of waiting for that to see if any of those little inklings would
It's
happen.
interesting that you say that about The Office, and I only say that because my frame of reference was always like All in the Family, right? Because I was always like, well, there's no way you could put a show like that on today, even today, right?
Yeah.
But you're right when you say that, even though The Office, because I think the Diversity Day episode alone,
Right. Oh yeah. So
but
good.
it's funny because they're pretty, well, I don't know. The standards were just different in the 70s. Like it was
Mhm.
a little looser.
Yeah.
Like the language wasn't looser,
Yeah.
but I felt
Right.
like the subjects were a little looser.
So I
Even
will say we're halfway through the first season now. So we've seen a decent amount of
Yeah.
episodes, like probably
Mm.
more than people should.
more than
but
we should ever watch.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I will say, except for a couple small things, a lot of the cancelable stuff did not come up as much as I expected. Like
Yeah.
there's not a lot
Mm-mm.
there. The biggest thing I would say is that it's just it's not even chauvinism because it's women too, but just
Mm.
just like there's just definitely a lot of just like everybody's a creep. Like there's
Right.
just a lot
Well,
of like,
I mean, the episode title alone, I was like, oh no, I don't want to do this episode. I was like, I don't think I
Yep.
should watch this.
Yep.
The old
Now, to
man
be
at the
fair-
runaway, I was like, oh, this scene, I was like, this is all downhill from
This
here.
could go way,
Right.
it's going to go in a very different
no,
direction. Like,
because I'm a wonderful host, I gave you 3 choices, so I didn't
Well,
just
yeah,
I honestly, when you gave me the choices, I didn't even like track on the title at all. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
this just like seems all right. The date worked for me. And then I was like, what did I do? Why did I choose this?
it's funny. Like, had she gone to a different room, this would be a completely different TV show. And I kept
Right.
thinking that. I was just like, I don't know if that's a sign of the times or it's just a sign of the circumstances in which it happens in the course of the story. But either way, it
Right.
was just a
So
weird.
I want to get to the titles because
Yeah.
I feel like kind of lazy. So the titles are The Old Man and the Runaway, The Painters, and A Fine Romance. Well, The Painters, that's fine. That's not everything needs to be poetry. A Fine Romance is not descriptive in any way of the Julie Priest storyline.
Right. And question, is this the finale? How many episodes are in a season?
About 25. So no, we're about
Okay,
halfway
no,
down.
halfway through. Okay, because I was like, I guess they just lost steam, and we're like, all right, this is it.
But you know
Screw
what's
it.
funny
Just
is
like end it.
Yeah.
we've had a couple of these that felt that way, that felt like they were smashing it together and kind of like stalling for time
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
kind of thrown together. The weirdest thing about this is, when this aired originally?
Mm-mm.
Christmas Eve, 1977.
Oh, really?
So imagine
I-
gathering
Why did
around
they
with the
air the-
family.
That's crazy because this is probably one of the most viewed episodes then. If this was like a popular show and Christmas Eve is around family time, so you're like, oh, let's all watch a
think.
show together. That
But the weird thing was last week was the Christmas episode,
oh,
which means
Why
I
would you
think they
do-
had
so
Mike, do you remember that weird Thursday episode that came out of nowhere and it was
Yeah,
like the weirdest
yeah.
one? I bet you
It was
that
a very
screwed up the
strange one.
schedule.
do you think that they were like, are we gonna get canceled? Are we not gonna get canceled? All right, let's just throw some
Let's-
filler episodes
Well,
in.
Let's
you know-
end on this terrible thing.
I think Beth, I think you make a good point. I mean, if people weren't watching it, right, they weren't
Yeah.
going to put it on Christmas Eve. Like it wasn't even related to Christmas Eve. So that tells me
Well,
there must have been a
Me-
bunch of people. I'd love to know what like the rating was or something to see
Yeah,
who's watching
Chris-
The Love Boat on Christmas Eve instead of
Well,
like a
but
Christmas
here's-
special or
right.
something
Or
like
Christmas.
that.
Yeah, exactly.
They
Well,
must have
but
been
so I-
have had confidence in it.
So I looked to see what else was
Hmm.
on because times were different back then. So Kojak has replaced Carol Burnett.
Wow.
Mm.
So
That's
Christmas
unfortunate.
Kojak, probably a thing. NBC show, now usually they have a crazy movie of the week
Mhm.
that makes no sense. So they had a religious program, and you would think, oh, okay, the first Noel or
In prime time? Or
Yeah.
okay.
you know what it was about? Noah's Ark. the least Christmassy
At Christmas?
religious story you
Yeah.
can find in the Bible. Like
I
they
feel
should
like
have had
there's
like Lot's
like a
wife
whole
turn to salt.
there's a whole testament dedicated to Christmas. So it's-
Yeah, why wouldn't?
Nope. we're going like Exodus.
Right.
We're
Okay.
going
That
early in
other
the
book's
book.
all about the 24th. That's all that
Yeah,
is.
they
Yeah,
s-
that,
yeah, they s-
yeah, that
so,
guy. What? That's an
yeah,
odd.
just
Was
just
it
a
a 2-hour
weird
movie, or was it just like a long?
and
Like some of those things
unless
are really
you know what,
long.
or amazing counter programming because the Love Boat is such a smash that you had to get another nautical program on Noah's Ark.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
to
There you
rival
go.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I,
animal,
exactly.
animal boat.
I wore a nautical sweater because I didn't
Nice.
really know what
Very
to wear.
impressive.
On this.
It was
Nice.
hard because I tried to find something in Singapore Sunrise Saffron. I don't have like any
Oh.
yellow clothes
Looks like
at
this.
all.
That's
Yeah.
I have
match.
no yellow clothing. It's
Yeah, I don't
crazy.
have a lot of yellow clothing. I don't.
I wasn't sure, and they also had Calcutta yellow, which I was like, I don't really know. And then I thought maybe I wear a painter suit, but that,
I
I
thought
went with the
about just
nautical
having a single splash of paint here. Just like
Yeah.
I'm not even. I don't see it. What paint?
But,
What
but
paint?
you've done a
Just
pretty
that
good
little
job,
splash
Mike,
right
of
there.
forgetting to have a costume every week.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
my
yeah.
costume. Is not
Yeah.
having a costume.
Like
Mhm.
I
It
at
would
least
have
went
been.
with I went with a blue shirt to match
Yeah.
Stubing's office at the
I'm
end.
dressed as best intentions.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right, let's get to the summary of this nonsense. So, an
All right.
older man finds a teenage stowaway in his bathroom. Julie falls for one of her brother's best friends,
There we go. with
while the roommate is, egging him on to hook up with Julie. And then Julie hires inept painters to paint Stubing's office, as we said,
Julie.
Singapore Sunrise Saffron. So Julie gets 2 notes in the plot summary, so that's heavy duty for her.
Is she usually not a main character, or is
No,
she?
she's
Oh.
probably had the most to do, like even more than the captain.
She's like the
Um,
heart and soul of the ship. Honestly,
Seems like it. Yeah.
I will
She's
I
like
will be
the-
curious to get your opinion though, Beth, because I feel like,
Mm.
and Mike, I don't know if you agree. We'll get to it, but Julie's
Yeah.
had a rough few weeks.
This
I
is rough.
felt for Roy.
Yeah.
I really felt for her in this
Yeah.
episode.
Oh,
Yeah.
Just
She's like the Pam of the show.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's funny.
She
It's like a
gets weird. She's like
self-inflicted
weird
Pam.
Yeah.
It's just
like I
Right.
make things weird, Pam.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that'd be her last name. But yeah, it's
It's
just
like-
a weird. I'm a red hot. I'm like, oh, I had to look
Mm.
away.
Oh,
I know
that
that was
hurt.
that.
Oh, no.
That was
that
such a
was-
cringe moment.
Oh, I just
Oh,
chills all
man.
over my arm. It's
Yeah.
terrible.
If
I
Nicky O'Day
actually-
didn't have a heart attack in that scene, I was going to,
Oh,
because
God.
that was uncomfortable.
I wrote down the quote for that because I felt like we had to say it out loud.
Exactly. I went back and I just made sure. I'm like, oof.
Looking at the credits, we go 5 deep today. Will Gear as Franklin Bootherston. Will
His voice
Gear,
sounds
apparently
familiar.
big guy from the Waltons, which I never saw.
Yeah.
I didn't either.
And sadly, died 4 months after this aired. So
Oh, I hope
he
he
went
got
out
to
on
see-
top.
Yeah,
he was
you saw
great.
it, and then yeah.
Hope you got to
No
spend
question.
time with this newfound family member.
Question. I was distracted immediately by Will Gear because I thought he sounded exactly like, and potentially was at one point, Burl Ives. And all I could do is hear him talking like Burl Ives as the snowman in the Rudolph special.
Now I
The
need to go
whole
back.
Well,
It-
don't
it's-
worry, because everything I say as him tonight will be in the cadence of Burl Ives as the
Oh,
snowman
nice.
in the Rudolph special. So
Amazing.
I gotta say, it's
Um,
funny you say that. The same thing happened to me. I'm not kidding. With Artie Johnson.
okay,
Mm.
who did you
For
think he was?
some reason, I thought it was the guy, what's his name? The person that sings the Love Boat. I thought it was Paul Williams.
Mm.
So the whole thing, I kept thinking it was Paul Williams, and then I was like, wait,
Not loving,
it's not. I had to go
laughing,
back and
Artie
rewatch
Johnson.
it. Because it was
Well-
distracting. I had so many Paul Williams questions.
Yeah.
If we're also talking about cameos, there is like an amazing one in this episode. I don't know if you guys noticed, but the painter, Vincent, he is Pat Morita,
Yes.
aka Mr. Miyagi.
Yes. I knew that if there was a chance of you knowing
Me?
any of these guys, it would be somebody from the Karate
Marita.
Kid, a movie that actually was made while you were alive. so, I thought the Painters were great. I thought that was a
Oh,
really
it was
good
Oh, yeah.
comic duo. Like
was
that was
great.
just they were like I would watch those guys have their own show.
Yeah, it was
they
a
were
very
great.
stringent feel. Like
Like
I liked
traveling
it.
around the world for free,
Yeah.
just inept at whatever they're
Just
doing.
That was
comments.
such a
Great.
surprise. At the end, I loved
I was
liked it.
surprised
that.
too.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
liked it.
That's the thing. This episode, for all its faults, which we will definitely get into, had two gotchas that I think got me. Both of them surprised me.
Yeah,
The priest thing and the con man thing. I think they
Yeah.
both surprised me.
same. Was not
No,
expecting
you shouldn't
either.
build a
Yeah.
whole 60-minute network television show around gotchas, obviously, based on today. But Tom Poston is most famous
Love him.
for being George Utley in Newhart.
Yeah.
He was great. Also,
He
a
was
lot
great.
of greatness in here,
Yeah,
but
he
a
was
lot of
great.
crap. Anson Williams as Sean McGlynn,
Yeah,
not
it was
good.
not.
I challenge you to rewatch this episode and look. Let's not say that, to rewatch the episode. In watching, I was so distracted because Anson Williams has the same haircut as Julie. So every time I would see it, I'd be like, yep. Okay,
Would you
more
do
You
a
think
double
it was
take?
the old it was the old neighborhood haircut, like standard
Yeah.
issue?
Yeah, from Oregon, right? That's where she's
Yeah.
from.
Oh,
Yeah.
from Portland.
Oh,
So-
right. Beth, you might be neighbors
Yes.
with Julie's
I-
family.
I did have a few call outs. There's a lot of PA call outs and a lot of Portland call outs, or that one
Yep.
Portland call out.
Yeah. We end up getting a double shot of Happy Days with Pat Morita and Anson
Mhm.
Williams, which boosts Happy Days to the lead. That was the third and fourth Happy Days cast members to be on the Love Boat, so they take the lead over, I think, the Brady Bunch in our long running contest that I probably
Yeah,
should write
yeah,
down at
yeah.
some point.
Mm-hmm.
And then the person I feel bad for is Bane Johnson,
Yeah,
who is
who
Nancy
this?
Brown, the stowaway.
Yeah, I
She's the
remember-
only person
Mm.
who does not get in the main credits, and she's the only person who ends up in the end credits. You couldn't
She had
just
a lot of
pop her
screen
on.
time there.
Yeah.
Well, that storyline. I mean, if you just broke down like how much screen time that story
Just
Oh,
drag.
was, it was pretty much the whole episode. You know, it was very time consuming.
I mean,
Yeah,
I don't wanna
it
say
was.
it. I don't want to say it, but that might be why Will Geer didn't stay with us much longer. They were working his ass off. Like
Yeah,
he
they-
was in a lot of this show.
They were not paying him by
Yeah.
the word.
I mean, and they
Mhm.
had him doing a lot of like physical comedy in that. It
Yoga?
was
Yeah.
that
Chanting.
whole scene, chanting,
That-
the
yeah.
falling over.
He shouldn't have. By the way, that's irresponsible to ask a man of his age to bend his leg without ever doing it ever before. To be like, no, put your, no, you're fine, Grandpa. What are you trying
Right.
to do? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Trying to knock
There was
him
I
off.
mean, there were a lot of weird parts of that storyline.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
very weird.
Mike, any last notes on the cast before we jump on?
No, I was a little I kind of didn't know who Artie Johnson was, but he's been in a
Well,
lot of
obviously you thought it
TV
was Paul Williams.
as well. I thought it was Paul Williams.
Mm.
No, nothing yet. I'm happy to see more Happy Days people, but now I'm sort of wondering that Well is getting sort of shallow on the Happy Days department.
I think the
think you're gonna get
parents can
Henry
get.
Winkler.
I think we'll get the parents.
I think you'll
I
get
think we'll get-
Marion before the Boz.
We'll get
Mhm.
Joni.
J-
We're never getting Fonzie or Ron Howard.
Well, we already had
That's just
Chachi.
not- but there's a level, and we're
That
going to
was
get like
fun.
Ralph Mouth like 30 times would be my guess.
I don't
Like
think
not even
Winkler's gonna
credited,
show
just
up
like
on that.
eating on the boat somewhere.
Oh,
like on the set.
Ice Cream Man 4. Something horrible. Poor Mr. Mouth.
Great character. All right,
I'm
let's
ready.
get on the boat. Let's get on the boat here. And we're going to start with a very good scene, but also a little controversy, which I want to see if you guys picked up on.
Hmm.
So we open up. Julie is welcoming passengers, and old man Franklin Brutherston comes through the door as everyone's trying to get into the boat. So just a great start, you old man, and then just starts complaining about there's nothing to do on this boat. What do you have to do on this boat? And
Yeah.
and Julie just gives him a lot of young man's game activities as for this clearly 100-year-old man.
Do you think that she did that intentionally? Because she's just like, this guy's very crotchety.
Oh, you think it's like go away, don't ask me questions?
Right. Because, like, if I were her, I'd be like, oh, bless your heart. Walk away.
Just
He-
immediately go the opposite direction. He's
But
a
he's like-
giant old man too. He's giant. This guy is
Yeah,
enormous.
he does
Like,
kind of. He is towering. I don't think I
Like, you don't
realized
wanna
it as
be
much
with
on this
this.
scene, but yeah.
like maybe he's not like a jerk, but he has it just the situation has like potential to go south real quick. Just
Well, it's like
get him
my-
to his room. Like, all right.
My
good.
grandfather was always famous. He would somebody would ask him how he was doing, and he would just be like lousy, and that was his thing. And he wasn't
Right.
like a grumpy person, but he wanted you to ask him why he was lousy, and all
Right.
that stuff. So
I do think that this was a good setup because it did, like, pull at your heartstrings a little later on once you find out his story. So I
Yeah.
think it was like, make him be a crotchety old man and people hate him. And then we'll see if he's got a heart.
Heart of gold, crotchety old
Yeah.
man, heart of gold. See, maybe that's
Right.
why it worked out for Christmas too, because I was kind of thinking, I'm like,
Yeah.
is there any Christmas vibe to any of this? And I was like,
Right.
maybe a little bit, maybe a little
I
bit.
think that's coincidental. I do not
Well-
think they knew this was airing on Christmas. So.
Miracle.
He shoehorns in, as Beth pointed out, McKeesport, which I think we get like 3 McKeesports in here. And don't worry, in case you were worried, later we'll have a little fun fact trip around McKeesport, Pennsylvania. But he doesn't want to get mixed up with one of your Sun City swingers, which is great. 'cause he's like,
Okay.
put in your pants, Julie.
Funny.
I'm not hitting on these old blue hairs. So
Well, you never know
Just
with Julie.
classic
Julie's
old-
ready to. Julie's what red-blooded American woman ready to mingle apparently. So she's
She
just
well,
is
here's the thing.
thirsty.
Yeah.
Who
Oh
cares?
wow, you think she's going Bootherston? By the way, I
I-
wrote Bootherston
Whatever.
300 times in my notes. I still don't quite know how to pronounce
It's
it.
fun.
I
That's
actually had to look up his name because I couldn't understand when they said his name what it was.
Yeah.
And I did notice that his first name is Franklin with a Y, not
With
an
a
I.
Y, right?
So-
Oh, that's
Very-
class right there. That's class.
High class.
You think he's like
Like-
high cotton McKeesport, like
he's-
the older, the old money.
He's not buttoning his collars, his sleeves. He's got he's cufflinks exclusive.
Listen,
Cufflinks.
He's got
We-
cufflinks
we-
on his t-shirt.
I
That's
will
how
say
man
this.
rolls.
If I hadn't busted out that tux a few episodes ago, I would have busted it out this week because this is a finely dressed episode.
He's
All
a
the
gentleman.
gentlemen
He's a
are
gentleman.
dressed to the nines the entire episode.
And they are in California, which is a little weird to me. Like that seems an awful lot of
A lot of
clothing.
suiting. A lot
Yeah,
of suiting for
it's a lot.
California. I wrote a note about that because I was like, this actually doesn't track.
because how are you going
So
to go
you think
swimming
Do you
on
think he
deck if
flies?
people are-
So he
Hmm.
flies from McKeesport. So, spoiler, near Pittsburgh. So he flies from
Yeah.
Pittsburgh
Sure.
to Los Angeles, right? So he flies
Yeah.
in that suit and then gets on the boat in the suit, or do you think
Yeah,
it's a
and
second
He,
suit?
he
No,
could take
I
off
mean,
his jacket at least. Roll
are
up
there
your
wrinkles?
sleeves.
Where, like, how did he not get any wrinkles throughout all this travel?
I bet you clothes back then wrinkled like crazy. I bet you
For
everyone
sure.
was a wrinkly mess back in the
That-
day.
Or they
that's
were
what I'm
made of
talking about.
asbestos.
Because it was cramped on a plane, whatever it
Mhm.
was. I don't know. Maybe his shirt was all jacked up. That's the only thing I can think of. Because how are you gonna? I mean, it's in
I mean, he
California.
was so
you're going to
handy with that.
Mexico.
He was so handy with that clothesline later. Maybe he's got some sort of like old school ironing trick where he like beats it against the wall or something. It's
Maybe
like
he thinks he's on like one of those Norwegian cruises. He's just confused. He brought all
I
the
just
wrong
don't-
clothes.
we'll get to it, but like if he clearly likes McKeesport, he's definitely a salt of the earth type. It's a weird trip to go on by yourself across the country to go cruising.
I never would go on a cruise by myself. Like that is like
I
the
can't
one
imagine.
I just can't imagine. I know we're gonna get to the storyline later, like being like, something tragic happens, and I'm like, you know what? A cruise sounds like it's gonna cheer me up. This is perfect.
No, sounds awful.
Oh,
And
Yeah,
I'll say
no.
this, Beth, like I would say 50% of the storylines are people on the boat by themselves,
yeah.
including a person in a wheelchair who can't, get around without a
Mhm.
wheelchair. A person who was so pregnant that they had the baby on the boat.
On the ship.
Like,
Yeah. Well, also, how insane is it that Sean and Mickey are two single men that are like room together. They don't know each other. I would be
That's-
like, are you
that's
crazy?
weird.
Rooming with a
That is-
stranger?
Like it's
So we
like it's
don't
a
know-
hostel. Like a hostel
we don't
on a
know
water.
if that's a real thing, but that is definitely a show thing. The first episode had it, and we were floored that
it's
is a
just
thing.
that can't be a real
Insanity.
thing. It can't be.
I
It
am
must be
disgusted by
a
this
cheap
whole
ass
thing.
ticket. I wouldn't want
I don't want to
that.
sit at a
Share
table
a
with a stranger.
bathroom,
Well, I
like,
gotta
with just a
right,
complete.
yeah.
You're going to sleep there in the same room?
Gross.
Yeah. What the hell? No, I'm not down with that.
So, just before we move on, I just want to note that Julie in that scene was wearing a navy blue jacket with a red shirt. Sorry, white shirt. Anyway, why would that be relevant? Who knows? Anyway, moving on. Doc is greeted by Steubing on the deck, and Steubing's like in a great mood, like the best mood we've ever seen him in. And Doc's like, "What? Why? It's just a cruise. Nobody's paying attention. Our show's going to be canceled soon. Don't worry about it." Steubing's excited because while they were in port, Julie got some painters to paint his cabin his favorite color: Singapore sunrise saffron. And so he wants to go show it off to Doc. What did he say? Come feast your eyes.
Yeah.
It's nice that he has nothing to do. Like the ship's about to leave port. He's got nothing to do but just, hey, come here. This is the time I'm going to show you this.
Right. He's not
What?
greeting guests. He's not doing anything. He's worried about his paint.
Pulling the
color.
boat
He's
out.
happy.
He's not the real captain. He's like
No.
figurehead captain. He's
Yeah.
like
Did you
Captain
notice who
Crunch
was
is more of
not?
a captain than him. He
Did you
doesn't do
notice who was
anything.
not busy checking out the paint job in his office? The deputy captain,
Right.
the
Who-
real captain.
We've heard his name, but you never see him because he's always busy
Right.
driving the ship.
Right,
Well-
exactly. He can't be on that show.
I also like that they called the painters color and tint engineers. I was
Yeah,
like,
I like
that
that. I like
was
that.
such I was like, wow, what an upgrade for a title. It's amazing.
I loved
Yeah,
everything
Julie.
about these painters.
Yeah.
I did not guess that they were con artists at all. But once I knew, I was like, "Oh, Julie, you just got sold, man. You just got sold."
And she
Or
would. It
Julie.
kind of
Engineers.
just goes with her personality that she would.
Or
get
maybe she's
taken
got like
that.
maybe she has like a shady side. You
I
know
will
what I mean?
say, I don't know.
I don't know.
I feel like she just gets like, glazed eyes and like hard eyes and,
Oh, heart of
Well,
gold.
I mean,
Yeah.
Trust too
you
much.
can't argue
trust
that
too
this
much.
week. You cannot argue that this week.
Right. I will say,
right.
the whole paint color scene, like the Calcutta yellow and all of that, it really reminded me of the American Psycho scene about the business cards. I don't know if you have seen American Psycho,
Yeah.
but they get real particular about the shades of white for the business cards. I was like, oh, I wonder if American Psycho took this as a little nod.
You know what, Beth? I think you're onto something here. Captain that doesn't do anything.
Hmm.
Very particular about color. Short jacket, always looking good. Maybe Captain Steubing, there's a subplot where he's just, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? When
he's
people come
Bateman.
on board. Yeah.
Yeah.
600 people
People
go
just
on, like
disappear on the
200
ship.
go off. Yeah.
Who
Tall
knows
women
what
with red
happens in
hair.
season 2? Season 2, a
Hey.
captain might turn.
If you're a woman and you look like John Ritter, except you have tall red hair, don't go on the ship. That's all I'm going to say.
He hasn't been creepy in a few episodes, though.
It's because
at
he hasn't been
least.
dealing with a woman that looks like John Ritter with tall red hair. That's why. That's his kryptonite.
So now we smash cut to an interior scene where Julie ends up running into Sean. Did you guys happen to notice what Julie was wearing?
No.
No, I did
Julie
not.
is now wearing a white jacket with a red shirt.
Maybe it was like a hypercolor thing. Maybe she was a little
No.
warm. Maybe she no.
So we'll
Wow.
we'll
That's
keep an eye on
lazy.
that. So Sean, she somehow spots Sean from like 3 miles away.
Right.
She
That's
wants a
right.
man. She's crazy.
Like,
She's
good lord. But she's like, Sean, and he
Yeah.
and this is
keep
where
it
I think
professional. Come on now.
maybe they told Potsy to act like that, but the just dead pause, no response. Like when there's someone who I don't know their name, there's always like 3 or 4 seconds of just like, oh hey, how you doing? What's up? How you been?
Yeah,
Not-
because you're going through your Rolodex and you're just like,
Right.
I need to figure this out.
That's why you never call anybody by their name. It's always chief or boss or ace or lady or something like that. But so like he's got no idea. Finally, Julie has to like give her the whole spiel that it's her brother's sister, and then he finally gets it. But still doesn't seem to get it really. And before he can really get it, in comes Mickey O'Day.
Hey, love
This
the
week's
jumpsuit.
creep of the week.
Oh, yeah.
Love the jumpsuit though, like owning it, and zippered a little too low. Not too low, but too low for
Just
him.
enough,
Like he looked a
just
little,
enough.
just enough. Thank you, just enough.
I gotta tell you, it probably wouldn't have been as good if they put him in more. Mickey O'Day had probably 30 lines in this thing. Every single one of them, pitch perfect.
Oh,
He's good.
fantastic writing
Just-
for his character.
He was great. Everything was great, and he was just everything else in this show seemed so slow and deliberate. And he's just like, I'm gonna hit my lines. I'm getting out of
natural.
here.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
I gotta go to the bar.
It was good.
He's like, he's
Bomb
like,
ticking.
oh, I do. He complained about the line, which is funny because we've never seen anybody observe lines ever in this
Mm-mm.
show. People are just
Just
shoving
free-for-all.
through.
Yeah,
Right. But he had to find out who his roommate was because that's not weird.
you gotta find
Um,
out.
And then he wanted to see if Julie was his roommate. Way to go, guy. You've been on the boat for can you imagine getting a TSA line and being like, hey, you gonna fly with me? They would tase
Yeah,
you
with
in
the-
4 seconds.
Right.
That's not a. That's not even like just a weird old guy. Like there's nothing endearing about that. Like in
No.
2023, probably not
Yeah, I think-
in 1976 either. But
Yeah.
But I think that, as much as anything, is the most dated part of this
Yeah.
show so far. In terms, like you were saying, Beth, it's it's just very overt. And it
Mhm.
goes both ways. I mean, Julie basically jumps the priest here. I mean, it's but it's very just late 70s. I'm on a boat. I can't possibly not hook up with somebody. I've been on this
Right.
boat for 20 minutes. So
if
Well,
she
I
works
think
there.
It's so dramatic. I think everybody's storyline is overly dramatic, which I think makes, this era, the sitcoms, very much the whole shtick thing, I think is very funny. And I kind of like it's endearing. I will say for Mickey though, he had really good one-liners, especially when he was walking off scene.
yeah, no, it was
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
He just hit everything. And, turns out also, hey, priest, could you get, he doesn't know he's a priest, just his roommate.
Yeah.
Could you get my bags? I have a bad heart. But I'm sure that won't come back up again.
Right.
So
No,
Well-
just get it in there.
Yeah, it's nothing to pay.
Chekhov's heart condition.
Well, I think he
So now
actually
we-
said, I have a bomb ticking.
Boom.
Can you can you get my bags?
So now we go back to the hallway because Stubing is walking Doc down and they run into the painters. And Julie shows up to do the whole tint engineer thing. And did you guys happen to notice what Julie's wearing?
Oh no, they did it again.
But
Was it the
tell us.
original?
She's
Yeah,
back in her blue jacket and white shirt. So they literally just had a
Loved it.
scene and didn't know to put her in the right jacket.
Well, it was 2 different storylines too.
Nope.
Yeah.
No.
Well, yeah,
'Cause-
but I'm saying yes, but it's the same time of day. It's
Right,
not.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
This
Well, because
does
we
not.
always wondered if we always wondered with the 3 different storylines. There's 3 different directors.
Right.
Like, does one director take, okay, I'll film everything in one day, and director 2,
Sure.
I'll take this day, that day. So I just wonder if
Clearly.
sometimes things fall out of sync. which is
Right.
just
And that's how we've
crazy.
always been judged. We've always been keeping track of Julie's bowl haircut to
Yeah.
see if they shoot things out of order and stuff like
Or
that.
Potsy.
This was the worst continuity error they've had so far.
They
But
must
it's
have thought they were
egregious.
getting canceled. They probably thought they were it's done.
Screw it.
Who
It's
cares?
just-
I was
Throw it
actually
against the
a
wall.
little offended. I was a little offended as someone who's had to watch all these in a row. It's the least you can do. I don't wear the same thing. I've yet to wear the same thing on these shows. We've done 12 of these. Come on. I don't have that many clothes.
Wish I could say the same. All right.
So Julie's there to see the unveiling, does the whole thing about the Color Coordinate Consultants Inc., who are the tint engineers, and the painters actually show up. They're like, oh, it's not quite bone dry, but the captain
They
wants
were
to sneak a
great.
peek.
Yeah.
Oh, they were so funny.
Oh,
Their
God.
timing. God, they were
Just
funny.
immediately. You know what they were doing, I think? It was a little
Hmm.
bit of Laurel and Hardy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was.
I
I
loved
think
it.
so.
I just loved everything they did. But in the conversation about the saffron is yellow and all this stuff, the paint cart starts to roll. Now, it's not a plane, right? Like you're not ascending or descending.
Mm.
I assume you're not submerging into water. So I don't know what would have started the cart to roll.
Well, it wasn't
But the
rolling
cart
that
wasn't
fast.
rolling at any kind of breakneck
Right.
speed.
No.
And here comes Isaac, who had nothing to do on this episode except to get hit with this paint cart at what? 2 miles an hour?
Maybe.
Right.
Maybe.
The reflex
like-
was not great.
Just
You could throw an open can of paint, not tip it, but like throw it at somebody. And you would get more paint on them than you would have in this. Meanwhile, he is covered like head
had
to
plenty of
toe
time
in
to
yellow
move.
paint.
couldn't he just moved like to the
Yeah.
side?
Right.
Yeah.
Like real simple, like
Anything.
anything.
Also, it's
Like,
10:20
do
in the
something.
morning and people are still boarding. Where are you going with those drinks?
Well, remember last week he delivered an Irish coffee.
Yeah, that's true.
One Irish coffee to somebody, and we're like, that just doesn't make financial sense for a bartender to be delivering one cup of coffee. A lot of
mean,
questionable decisions on the part of the
Isaac
bartender.
literally had 3 scenes this week, and every one of them was unnecessary and felt like they were just tacked on to get him into the show.
Very light on the Isaac.
So after that hilarity, they walk down to Stubing's office so he can check it out. And they're like, all right, well, we'll just take the wet paint sign off. Be careful. But of course, they painted the deputy captain's room, not Stubing's.
Well, cabin. Remember, they had the room
Yes.
versus
Sorry,
cabin.
cabin. They call him Captain Dept, which is very funny. Stubing then is mad because he's a child
He's pissed.
and orders these people who do not work for him to stay on the boat until it's done to his satisfaction.
Captain. I mean, he can marry
But
people.
you're not the
There's
captain
certain
of my
privileges.
life.
That's one of those things where, like, those guys didn't necessarily have to listen to him, but given like who they ended up being,
Well,
it just
no, it
sort
makes
of
total
worked out
sense for
great. They
them,
were like,
but-
"Yeah, sure, no problem."
But Stubing didn't know
but-
that. Like, what if I have a doctor's appointment? What if I have to pick up my mom from somewhere?
Well, to tell if someone's a con man from now on, I'm just going to be like, "Hey, craftsman working at the house, you can't leave till this is done." And then they leave, and I go, "You know what? That's a legit craftsman. That guy wasn't trying to rip me off at all. What have I done?" So, but I'm not going to do that. See what I'm saying? On this, maybe I'm just confusing myself now because
No, I mean, I think that's like a real gamble that you'd like have to take and see is this
right,
person legit or not.
right,
Where did
Otherwise,
they
you got a
s-
squatter, and then you're stuck.
Where did
with
they
them.
sleep?
right.
They
Right.
point out later that there's no rooms. Where did they sleep?
The captain's room in a little
It's covered in
non-painted, like a little circle on the floor. I don't know.
A lot of holes. But again, it's just like if I had anywhere, if say you're at work, right, and you do a project wrong, and they're like, you can't leave this office until the project's done, and then the office floats away to Mexico. Like you'd be pretty pissed if you had
I'd
things
be
to
upset.
do.
I'd be upset. Yeah.
No bueno.
No. Literally.
Gopher, who didn't have much more to do than Isaac this week, he is assisting Mr. Bootherston in the
What is this
cabin.
about?
Well, originally I was
He's-
like, what is this all about? And then I realized they're pointing out that he didn't go in the bathroom.
Yeah,
They're
I
doing
saw
a
that,
whole
but like,
song and dance to show all these things in the room. But when he
Right.
gets to the bathroom, the old man's like, I'm 75 years old. I don't need help seeing the bathroom. And then, of course, that's exactly who's in the bathroom. So
Yeah.
but
But he
just
got a
like
sweet
the whole
tip.
tip. What do you think? What do you think
Yeah.
he got? What do you think the tip was? It's late
5.
70s.
Fiver,
Oh,
He said, "What? Buy a good
good cigar and a
good
bad
cigar
cup of coffee.
and a bad cup of coffee. $5, $10?
It's a 1 or a 5. It's not a 10.
no.
No, it's a 5.
Although Bootherton must be in some money because
He's not throwing
the-
that money around like that, though. I mean, look at him.
But I mean, he
No
he
offense,
bought a
sir.
ticket for the girl. Like we don't
This
know
is-
how much these cruises cost.
That's
but-
true. That's true.
This is a very Annie storyline.
Mhm.
Like it's just it's a straight up. Which came first, Annie or this?
This. Well, the
Okay.
movie This, but I mean Annie was a comic book strip, so probably Annie technically.
We just didn't. Well, we just had an orphan story
Had
for
an
Christmas,
orphan. Yeah.
and
Oh.
Mike
And we had a
basically-
runaway.
You
Yeah.
can't double down.
We had a runaway too before that.
Yeah.
See, they must have thought they were getting canceled. This is very lazy writing.
I'm starting to
Or
think
they maybe
we're-
was there a writer's strike? Maybe there's a writer's strike.
They just like there was just blank. Here's the script, and it's just a blank
We're only-
piece of paper. Just what?
we're
Just
like
do it.
12 episodes into a 250 episode project, and we're already tripling up on things. This is not
We're already
good.
out of content.
Oh no. Next week, orphans. So I will say the scene, like I said, totally established just to show that the bathroom was not opened yet. But they did have probably the most artistic director shot we've seen in this entire show.
With
When he
the
opens the
thing and
suitcase, that was
Yeah.
like that was actually like somebody
artsy.
went to film school.
I like that.
So, yeah. That's like when I do the reels, I try to coordinate them if I can. But I only have like 4 options. So
They look good though. I think they look good. But it's also like that. He didn't even participate in the when they're throwing the ticker tape. Leaving.
wave
Like,
shot?
He wanted none of that either.
very limited wave shot this week. We only get 2 people.
Well,
Potsy,
Mickey O'Day was
Potsy
trying
waves,
to get.
and then Mickey
handsy.
O'Day.
Good
Mickey
Lord.
O'Day, in the course of what, 15 seconds, waves at who knows who, winks, tries to hit on this girl. The girl leaves, shrugs, winks again. It's one of these. Like he is
Shows
everywhere.
you exactly who he
visible
is
nuts.
very quickly. Yeah, he's just
Perfectly gross.
perfectly gross, Mickey O'Day.
Yeah.
Love him. So now we're back in Bootherton's room, and he's unpacking, and he's got a tinkle. And he goes to open the door, and it's locked. And he's like, "Oh, terrible cabin! You can't get the bathroom." And then who pops out? But Nancy Brown.
Ugh, this is where things I was like, I
What?
gotta stop watching. What am I doing?
Well, she's what, 26, right? Isn't that what it was?
Originally,
15.
she said she was 26.
She's 26. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she
'Cause
said
she was trying
a-
to say that I'm a 26-year-old chambermaid. You're like, that's
right.
creepy right there, but wait, it gets worse. She's
It
not
gets
26.
so much worse.
Ugh.
So she ends up being, after a couple failed lies, she's a 16-year-old runaway, and Bootherton comes in hot, like, what's the matter? Getting a little you couldn't run. What was it? Getting too heavy at home. But the joke's on him because her parents are dead. So come on, Bootherton, jeez,
Nice job, dude.
Yeah.
kid ruined.
Well, it's funny on this. She said she met up with her boyfriend Randy, right? And Randy, she's gonna meet him. She's gonna meet him in Mexico. And then I was like, is Randy short for like a Hispanic first name?
Oh.
Like Randy? Like Ricky? Got it. But Randy?
no, I
Randy
mean-
sounds just like a white dude. You know what I mean?
Probably is just a white dude.
In
He just
Acapulco
probably
that
moved-
she met in a concert in the States. Like,
Well, but if
jeez.
it's a concert that had a 2-day wait to get in, it's probably a pretty big concert. I was going to actually
to
ask you
know.
what concert you thought it was. Do you think it was the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band?
That's funny. That's funny. Just weird. Like, so it's a 16-year-old on it. Left her
That's the
foster
weird
family
part,
to go to
Is that Randy lives in Acapulco?
one of the weirder parts.
Well,
One of the weirder parts.
It just
Yes.
doesn't track. The storyline doesn't add up.
She's full of turkey. I feel like
You
she's
think
just,
there's no Randy?
there's no Randy. No.
What do you think she did on the boat? When she
Drug
got off the boat?
It's pretty obvious she's a drug.
She's a drug mule.
Pretty obvious.
That's what he was trying to get at.
She bilked that old man for all his money.
That's why she took an
Right.
extra day. Like,
That's what was in the burrito. Actually, it was
Right.
just cocaine. He smashed
Yeah.
it all over.
Whatever was
Exactly.
Oh, it makes all sense.
the drug ball.
It's so funny. So Nancy has had 5 sets of foster parents, which seems like a lot. These are
It's
the
a lot.
these particular ones are the pits.
They love to
But like
paint in
like you said, Mike, she's going to Acapulco to
Yeah.
hook up with Randy.
They love to
Mm.
paint these characters with these broad strokes. Like there's no like subtleness
Yeah.
to the characters. Like I've had 5 sets of this and it never worked out, or it's just so funny to me
So
that sometimes
dramatic.
so
Yeah.
dramatic. Yeah.
Well, I think now by the time we get to the end, I wonder if they were trying to highlight the transient nature of foster parenting. Because if it had just been the one set, would it have been harder for somebody to get out of it to get a new one?
Right. And that's why I thought that this was very much like an Annie storyline. I'm like, okay, we got it. Hard Knock Life.
Right. I mean, first of all, I think every story about an orphan is Annie at some point. Sorry, Oliver Twist. But I agree, Beth, that this is definitely like, especially because they were not painting Bootherton as a man. I mean, that's a rich guy's name, right?
Right. Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, Daddy Warbucks, we got this whole storyline. Let's tee it up, be a little bit more original.
Maybe
They throw it
that's why I got a little
off by
Christmas
having
vibe.
him from McKeesport, but
Yeah.
I think that's why I got a little Christmas vibe with
Home
it.
with a burrito.
You know, because Mike and I have had a previous discussion about orphans around Christmas,
Mm.
and Mike was saying, you know, what do you get an orphan for Christmas? And the
Oh,
answer was parents.
yeah.
So in this situation, you don't have
she's
to
got
wrap it up.
parents.
It's real. I'm saying in this
But they're the
situation,
kids.
she got that gift from this gentleman.
Right.
know,
Yeah.
Which that's why I think it's got that Christmas feeling. Maybe not intentional. Maybe I'm reaching. I just desperately want to find some sort of
This is a
connectivity
reach,
to.
but
It is
it warms your heart.
It does warm my heart. It is my heart's warm. It might be the coffee.
Do
or
you
this. Probably more coffee than this.
so Turnabout is fair play. Bootherton's got a picture of his wife, and Nancy's like, "Who's that? Where's she at?" And he's like, "Oh, she's dead." So these guys are just one-upping each other with terrible stories.
Yeah.
Um,
What's her name? They called her Miss Brown in the beginning, and then I didn't hear her name.
The
for the rest
girl?
of
I didn't either.
Yeah.
Nancy.
Nancy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nancy Brown.
Nancy
Nancy.
Brown. How sad
Um,
though. Like what completely different reasons to go on a cruise. Like the
It is sad.
contrast. Like like that movie Up. Like
Yeah.
my son was watching.
Oh,
The first 10 minutes are
God.
so freaking sad. And it's like
I cried
it's
that
the
whole
same
movie.
thing here. Like he's unpacking his stuff. He's got like a framed picture of his wife. And I start to like, oh geez, man. Like, what is he doing going to Mexico? He's not number one, he's not dressed for Mexico. Let's just
Yeah.
it's kind of
Well, he
weird.
doesn't, he
like,
doesn't
the
have, he
internet
doesn't have the
didn't
wife.
exist.
He doesn't have the wife to help him pack.
Right.
It's sad. It's sad.
How did you find out what the climates were in other parts of the world in 1977 if you didn't have the internet? Like,
Your wife.
he's from McKeesport.
Apparently.
Do you think he's ever been outside McKeesport except maybe for war?
I just think if, at this time, if my spouse were to die, going on a cruise to a place I don't know doesn't seem like my first reaction of like, sounds comforting. This is what I want to do for Christmas.
Do the at least again, all this stuff could be solved by like one line where it's like, she always wanted to go on a cruise, so this is my tribute to her,
Mhm.
or
Right.
I have
love
her
the
ashes in that
sea.
bag or something. Like,
That would be
We went
worse.
to go to this Mexican restaurant every Thursday, so I'm
Yeah.
returning her ashes to Mexico.
Or I always said I was going to take her on a cruise and I just never did.
Yeah.
right. And now it's too late.
She always
Yeah.
wanted me to be a bullfighter.
Christmas.
I am now going to Guadalajara to train in her honor. Something.
So Nancy is going to get the boot off the ship, but joke's on you, Bootherston, because as she pulls open this random just window, like on the front porch of a house that's on the boat, turns out they've already set sail. They also gave her like a zoom shot.
They did
Like they
give her a zoom
zoomed in
shot.
and she
Yeah.
like, okay, but you better get me a life jacket because, it was like
Right.
unnecessary.
You would think that her role, or the actress that played her, she had a big role in this. Like,
She
was
wasn't
she
very good.
anything? Did she go on to anything?
what she was
wasn't
in?
really listed. No.
The only thing she was in was The Electric Company.
Huh.
I love the Electric Company. That was a
Love The Electric
fantastic
Company,
show.
but that's like, that's not exactly a breeding ground for young actors.
No, that's weird. It's a big role for her. It's a big opportunity.
The
A lot of lines. Yeah.
the most amazing thing to me was this whole scene starts. Bootherton's got to go to the bathroom, and he never went. Which for a 75-year-old man, good for you,
he
bub.
went. He went, Mike.
Oh
Believe me, he
no!
went. Yeah,
No.
he went.
Back in the Mickey Potsy room, Mickey is Mickey's talking up the social hour, and he's telling Potsy how he's already got money in the bank with Julie because she's got the Mugu Gaipan eyes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that like Gaga? Is that what he's trying to say?
So weird.
I don't want to know.
They-
That might be offensive.
That might be bad. I don't know. It's
There was
weird.
just like a few one-liners that were definitely a little offensive, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
you
you could-
expect it.
That one just seemed unnecessary though. Like he's got
Yeah.
That
like
one
he said like 50
Definitely
things.
was
Like,
unnecessary.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
even get it. Like it wasn't
right.
What?
Which is the absolute worst offensive thing. Is it doesn't even make any sense.
Oh.
Like it's just
Yeah.
Like what are you?
Right.
Odd.
Mickey then starts ripping his doctor for making him take these gigantic horse pills for his heart, and he references Seattle Slew, who I think was a horse that
Mm-hmm.
was
Like in the
recent or
r-
way dead. One or the other.
Hmm.
Was that like a 1930s horse or was it like a 1970s horse?
I think it was a 1970s horse that almost won the Triple Crown. It was one of
That makes more
those like 2 out of 3 or something like that.
But he's like, "Suck it, doc. I'm so young and virile with the ladies that I'll take these horse pills, but no comeuppance for Mickey O'Day." That's the
Giant
upshot
pill.
here.
Giant
Right.
pill, and he didn't use a lot of water. That thing was like a Mini Cooper. Good luck, sir.
So
I couldn't
with his
do that.
giant pill swallowed, Mickey grabs Potsy and he's like, "Let's get out there and meet some dames."
Yeah. I will say they spruced up. I was like happy that they're like, all right, we're gonna dress the occasion. We're gonna make this a thing.
Mm-hmm. It is nice. It is. And it's funny you say that because my wife tells me all the time. She's like, I think it's sad. Maybe it's the difference in people working from home. Like you don't get the opportunity to like.
Yeah,
I mean, you
dress up.
do kind of go out, but to dress up, like there's
Yeah.
just not. She's like, let's go to a gala, and I'm like, I don't know if any gala. Like, but there aren't as many opportunities, and like you're saying, you're on a cruise.
Yeah.
If I'm on a cruise, probably nowadays, I've never been on one, but I can't imagine getting dressed up.
Well,
For
I will
that.
say, I think that's like the nice thing about cruises is there's so many events that they do offer where it's like, oh, we're gonna have like, usually in your bathing suit or doing whatever, but then they have these like fancier things where it's like it is an opportunity to dress up. And
Yeah.
that's why people like it, is like you kind of get a little bit of everything.
That's a good.
I don't have
Yeah,
that many
that's a good
suits.
point.
I mean,
don't
think
have
about the
10 days worth of
Titanic.
suits.
They all dressed up on the
Yeah.
Titanic.
It's like
Yeah, but
a
I don't know that
thing.
we should be, taking lessons from the Titanic. So
I mean,
maybe
well,
one.
then they were like pretty much screwed when they hit the iceberg, because then you're
Yeah, that
kind of
tweed,
trailing
that
this
tweed
ball
don't
gown.
float. Yeah.
But we had a couple of Titanic survivors on a previous episode, and apparently in the shipping world, if you survive a boat sinking, you're considered a jinx. So they were just well-dressed jinx.
Oh.
Well-dressed jinx. I don't know how you would
Which
say
should
that.
have been
but
the
yeah,
title of that.
should have
Plural.
been the
Yeah.
title. Oof, jinxes.
Bootherton goes downstairs to turn in the stowaway, but he's asking all these hypothetical questions to Gopher and Julie. And Gopher insists that no one could possibly get past him.
Like it's never
Because he's
happened
got-
before.
He's got
Oh, yeah.
eyes everywhere. Meanwhile, like 5 weeks ago, somebody was talking to Gopher and then stowed away.
And a security
like,
dog.
And a security dog. There's no security on this boat. Like this is the third to fourth somewhat stowaway.
You know, it caught me today, and I was thinking about this. You don't even see anyone with like a walkie-talkie.
Right.
You know what I mean? Any sort of like in-ship
security.
communication, no security, no like
Yeah.
communication other than like a direct conversation.
Yeah.
So weird. I don't know.
And it's like
just weird.
it's impossible. It's such a big thing. Like I'm not even saying they should have good security, but they clearly don't
Just
even try.
But why
People
not
are
have
just
like a
bum
character,
rushing the door.
like the head? It's an old
Right.
military guy or an old whatever. Just like it would make sense. But
You know what's
No
going to
safety.
happen? There's going to be like an episode next season or something like that, or even this season, where they have like a retired cop who ends up being, that particular cruise. He's doing a lot of that stuff, and then they're like, oh, maybe
They
we
sh-
could use some security. It's like
They
it'll be
should bring
that.
back the painters. Have the painters do another con. Security.
be security.
Pretend they're security.
Oh, I'd love
Yeah.
that. I love that
Those
idea.
two little people would be excellent
They're
security.
fantastic.
They could be on every week, and I would watch it. I wouldn't
Yeah.
even care.
Just have them as crew members.
Right.
Just raid. You just pop up every now and again, like a Frank Grimes kind of Simpsons kind of thing.
So this whole thing ends up being a scam to make Bootherton pay for an extra ticket, because at the end of this, he ends up buying Nancy's way onto the boat and ends up having to keep her in the cabin because there's nowhere else for him to stay. Maybe they have no more rooms because the painters got the last room. Maybe not.
I do like his one-liner to Nancy about, once he finally lets her stay. He's like, "If you snore, I'll stuff you out to Portland." I was like, "Oh, is this a bad thing to be sent to Portland?" Maybe.
That's funny.
So they go to dinner, which is nice, I guess. Now,
Yeah.
originally I was going to be like, she's got a lot of clothes, but she was going to get married and live in Acapulco, I would imagine. So she probably packed a lot of
She's getting-
stuff, right?
Well, I actually did want to call it a little bit of a fashion. I don't know if you guys care, but I'm going to call it this
we
little
care.
fashion
We
sighting.
care.
We get into
So
fashion,
Nancy,
obviously.
yeah, clearly. Nancy has these thin bows in her hair, which are very on trend right now. And I just wanted to say, like, wow, look at how the fashion comes back around. I loved
What do you
it.
mean thin bows? Like
So
like
there's
a
these, like,
flat bow?
Or
Like
just
an
like
elbow
a thin
macaroni?
ribbon. A thin ribbon. Thin ribbons in her hair. It's very on trend right now. So I
Like
was
a
like, how about
gymnast
that?
ribbon? Like a gymnast might have in their hair, like that kind of
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah, very much like
Interesting.
a
Like a Nadia
gymnast.
Comaneci sort of thing.
Yeah. I
So
was
do you
surprised.
think that
I was like,
Nancy?
so yeah, she's a runaway. She's got bows in her back.
Do you think
Like,
she's
that
a
would be
trend? Do you think that's the reason thin bows are back? Is Nancy Brown from this episode?
No, but I think she rocked them. It's like, all right, well, trend look good then.
Somebody
let's bring it
remind me
back
to
around.
tag
You go, Nancy.
thin bows.
Thin bows.
As-
Hashtag bows.
Hashtag
Hashtag
thin-
bows.
yeah.
bows.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Nice.
forget.
Hashtag-
Bootherton wants to eat seafood on a boat. That's how you do it. Like when I lived in Florida, seafood all the time.
You can
That's what
see
you
the
do.
water. It's right there.
Exactly.
I
Right.
feel good
Right.
about
Oklahoma, no seafood.
that. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
But Nancy's just this friggin' hippie dip, and she's just like, eat the earth, man, and all this garbage.
Yeah, it's
Well,
enough of that.
he also wanted to order a lot of like heavy cream things. Like, so it was like seafood, like heavy cream seafood, like clam chowder, things like that.
Yeah.
So she was
good.
I thought that she was caring, looking after his heart. She's like, you're pretty much going to like have a heart attack and die, which he did 4 months later. So
She
prediction.
Where's your Messiah now?
should have listened to Nancy. Hashtag fortune teller. Good
First of all,
Lord.
I would argue his heart was already broken when his wife passed away 6 months ago. Let the man eat.
Oh,
R.I.P. Nancy's afraid that Steubing is going to bust her because, like, she assumes that the captain of the ship would have some idea what's going on his ship, but he's preoccupied with
No, he's got a short
painting.
jacket on. He could care less.
So Bootherston, gets her goat a little bit. Asks the captain if they still do cat o' nine tails for stowaways, but then she lets it on that he paid for the ticket, nothing to worry about, and they end up having what, burritos or fried
like that,
clams
yeah.
or some
Yeah.
weird
Like
Tex-Mex seafood
burritos
mix.
and guacamole, which I thought was like such a funny thing for them to say. I don't know why I didn't think that they would have like these things back then, but I just felt like it was like very strange.
It was like the first Mexican post.
Right.
although guacamole doesn't feel very 70s. It just doesn't.
That's why,
it's
yeah.
not-
When he
it
said
just doesn't-
guacamole, I was like, I don't even know if my dad would ever say guacamole now.
I also I would worry about the quality keeping of a guacamole on a cruise ship too.
No, I will say that most like cruise ships definitely do a lot of Mexican food.
Well, I guess
least
especially
the
if
one I
you're
was
going
on.
to Mexico.
The one I
Yeah.
was on, it was to the Caribbean, and we had a ton of Mexican food on that cruise ship.
I wonder why, especially going in the Caribbean. You'd think they would let's jerk everything. Have
No,
jerk
I think
every
it's like crowd pleasers. You want to have crowd pleaser food.
easy. You appeals to a wide audience kind of thing.
Nachos, yeah.
It's probably not spicy.
Well, this is
on a
Yeah.
cruise ship.
Very
Probably
bland.
freaking bland.
Super bland.
not that they give us like a menu every week, but they do mention other foods. This was definitely the most diverse food that they've mentioned. A lot of times it's like steak or chicken, pretty basic.
Love to see how big
Right.
the menu is.
Yeah, they
This
said
is
lobster
It felt like a
bisque.
very big menu this
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
Makes sense though, because they had 0 alcohol this week, so maybe they put it all in the food.
I just get nervous anytime I see a restaurant with a giant menu. I get nervous. I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh
It's the
no,
old
this is
diner
not
thing.
going to
You
go
Yeah.
can't
well.
do everything well.
Nope.
And it's the paradox of choice. You're just like, I want a small menu. I just want to make a quick decision. I
Right,
want to be done.
right. I don't need all this. Like,
Mm-mm.
no.
Although if you're on the boat for 10 days, you have time to, sample all the delicacies. So
Well, you could rotate it. You could have a
Yeah.
different thing, but to have just this menu with like 150 items on it, like we do
Seafood and
everything.
Mexican. No, it's usually like a night. It's a theme. Like they'll
Yeah.
be like, oh, we're doing Mexican tonight. And this is like what we have. And then, your staples, like they always have a prime rib. So
That's
do you
how
think
it
he's
was, like,
senile and none of this stuff was on the menu?
no, he just had pudding. Can I have 4 cups of tapioca
not even-
pudding? And he
The
went to
menu's
sleep.
upside down.
some
Yeah.
Jello.
He
Let
was
me have
done.
some Jello.
Yeah.
Guy.
It was good.
Oh, I'm so
Ensure.
confused.
Poor guy.
So Julie and Sean are hanging out, and this is where they start this weird just back
Oh,
and forth.
God.
Julie used to be called Metal Mouth because she had braces.
Yeah.
Julie then gets a phone call. So Isaac's second scene that has nothing to do. And when Julie goes to get the phone, man, Mickey O'Day shows up
Boom. Just
like within 3 seconds. Like a horny Jiminy Cricket. He is just always around
Everywhere.
to help you out.
everywhere. He's omniscient.
But there was funny because he says something along the lines of like, that Julie, she's all class. And then
Right.
Potsy's like, none finer. like she's a side of beef or something.
Right.
Why is Potsy drinking? Is that okay in the priest world? Like he can't.
Sure.
Is it all like so?
Right?
Well, we
No, I
don't know
think-
what
No.
kind he
Well,
is, right?
I
I don't know
think
how
Water
that
into
works.
wine.
I think you can drink, but I also think that like you're not supposed to gamble. Well, they were playing bridge, so I guess they weren't gambling.
Yeah.
Plus, we don't know what his denomination is either.
Right. I was just curious because I was like, wait, so you can drink? Okay.
Mm.
Okay. Just trying to establish some sort of parameters.
Well, I think he's on like a Rumspringer kind of thing.
He's on a reverse Rumspringer. That's what I
He
had.
would have.
written
He
down,
would have been
basically,
right.
yeah.
He would have been all over,
Yeah.
right? If he was
Well,
on some
just going-
Rumspringer.
Going crazy.
Yeah.
They ultimately, the problem with this storyline is there's no reason he couldn't at any point had said, hey, listen, I'm a priest now.
You don't.
But he just like
I don't know
seems-
why he
he
didn't say it
seems-
earlier. It makes no sense.
he's
He's known
got
it
a-
forever.
He's got a Mike Taylor level perception when it comes to women hitting on him.
Hmm.
And it just is
Nothing.
inexplicable.
Nothing.
Like, he is genuinely surprised every time Julie's hitting on him. Like he has no idea.
Yeah, the other thing that's weird to me is okay, so this is Julie's brother's best friend, right?
Right, Bobby's.
Which
best
is a
friend.
weird thing. Yeah.
But but the strange thing is, if somebody you knew growing up turned out to be a priest, it would be like, oh my God, guess who ended up being a priest?
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah,
not
that's
something no
right.
one would share.
I did think
Mm.
that. Yeah. Like I
Unless they're
definitely
not-
know
unless they're
what
not friends
everybody's.
anymore.
Right. But even then,
But I
it would still
definitely
be
know
like
what all my
news.
friends' siblings do generally. Like, I'm not saying I would know your specific job, but I would at least know, like, if I had to put them in 5 boxes, I would know what they were. You know, like,
Case in point, I have an old friend from high school, and he was actually the guitar player in our little Misfits tribute band way back in the day, and he is
Hmm.
a reverend or a priest based out of Russia now. Now,
Wow.
I didn't keep in touch, but I knew people that were just like, "Oh, you remember blah 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 blah." Well, he turned out to I just think it would. I don't know how that information would escape if she goes back for Christmas every year. Just like she's established this routine. It's just weird to me.
it is a pretty big one. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like trying to explain what my job is. Like,
What did-
priest
and-
is
and
pretty
what-
easy.
Why
Like,
didn't
you
you
know,
say, "Hey, Julie,
right.
quit
Well,
being weird. I'm a priest.
That
Back off, dude."
ultimately ends up being the biggest problem with this storyline is a very simple, doesn't even have to be something slick. I'm a
No,
priest
he
now
runs off because he's just like,
every
Right.
time.
I don't know.
Well, that's why, because I think because of the Rumspringer thing, I think he was like conflicted. Where he's
Do you think he was
just
fighting
like,
the urges?
"Oh." Well, I think he
Yes.
was like, I'm taking this time to figure this out. Maybe he was like, maybe I should do this. And then all of a sudden he's like, no, but I love, the big guy.
then they needed to. Okay, that makes sense. Then they needed to portray it better, where he was like, I don't know, biting a towel or his fist,
Maybe
or
he
he
didn't
was
like
just
ladies.
Yeah.
so horny. Like
Right.
it needed to be
Yeah.
something more overt, not just staring blankly into people.
Okay, do we
No,
think
but
he's a bad actor or bad storyline? Like bad lines?
Both. I think maybe both.
Both.
I think there is a world where you have a better actor in the priest role and a better actor in the runaway role, and this is the best episode. I think it's possible because everybody else is bringing their fastball in this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
I'm trying to think of other like past guests that you could have slid in there, like a John.
I mean, I'll tell you who the girl should have been.
or-
I'll tell you right now, the girl should have been Christy McNichol. That would have been
Oh yeah. That would have made more sense.
like that would have been absolutely perfect.
She's
The
probably
priest,
done
I
that
don't know.
movie too.
Give it to
A
Robert
movie
Urich.
just like that. Yeah,
You just had Robert Urich
Oh.
on the other day, and they didn't even use him
I
right.
don't even use them.
Yeah.
It's criminal.
I just thought this whole scene was so cringe. Like Julie just pissed me off the whole time. I was just like, you
Where's your self-esteem,
Oh,
girl?
Yeah.
Damn.
That's I was like,
Like,
have some self-respect.
Yeah.
Her saying, like, I'm a what'd she say? Full-grown, red-blooded American
We're not even
woman.
up to that yet, though. This is
Oh,
just like
sorry.
the setting of the table for that, and it's still
it's hard not to
Right,
think
but
about
she
it.
says
It's so
to who is she talking
terrible.
to? She says to someone, she goes, I think I'm in love with him. I'm like,
Doc.
you've had
Yeah, that
Doc.
later. That's
two-
with Doc. Yeah, that's
you've had
awful.
two
That is-
conversations.
Yeah, that's
we've
awful.
I think honestly, like I'm not even trying to be funny. I think the character of Julie, she's just a little crazy. Like
She's
doesn't have,
crumbling. She's crumbling before our eyes every
like
week.
insecurity. Like
This is the
this happens
fifth-
almost every episode. She's
is
throwing
the
herself at these
fifth-
dudes. It's like,
Hate
Fifth?
the portrayal of a woman. I hated it.
but
Is it
but
fourth or
she's at
fifth?
fifth. But she's at work too. So not
Yeah.
only is you're
Wow.
doing this in your personal life, but then you're like
Yeah.
all your coworkers and people who report to you see you like throwing yourself, and you just like
She's-
you lose
It's
credibility.
uncomfortable.
Like,
she's
It's
that
not-
woman. Yeah.
yeah. And she's
So
not
we-
even drunk. She's just crazy.
Where's HR when you need them?
Oh, that's the character they need.
Seriously. Oh, that's a good character.
hmm
They would clear that boat off in about 5 minutes.
That would be great. Have to have Toby
Like worse,
Flanderson.
it's worse than our old HR, Beth. So back to Harold and Maude. We get a second mention of McKeesport, which means, are you guys ready for some McKeesport PA facts?
Would love
Oh.
some McKeesport PA facts.
I feel like there needs to be some like music, like
Dun,
breakdown
dun,
facts.
dun, 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 drums or
McKeesport
something.
is a suburb of Pittsburgh. It is located at the confluence of the Monongahela and the Youghiogheny rivers. The population was 17,127 as of the 2020 census. The
Mm,
nickname, Tube City.
Tube City.
Tube City.
Tube
Hmm.
City.
Why?
Turns out it's a steel town, and there was
Mhm.
something called National Tube that was there. So that was why it was
Mm.
named Tube City. I don't know.
What does the tube
Oh.
indicate? Is it a tube like what is
I think it's
it?
like a tube that you use in some sort of building stuff. I don't think it was like a
Mm.
whitewater rafting tube.
Interesting. I thought tubing.
I mean, it would make sense for as much as they talk about the rivers.
that's what I figure. All the river talk.
Settled by Scottish immigrant David McKee in 1755, his son John was one of the original settlers of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Oh, there we go.
Wow.
Filet.
The population dipped from 38,000 in 1970 to 17,000. So it was a tough time. And obviously, we lost both of the Boothertons. So that's just indication of everybody leaving. There was some bad stuff going on. There was a tornado in 1944 that killed 17 people. And then there was the famous fire in 1976, which started at a famous department store and like destroyed their downtown. So way to bring a orphan child into this death trap town of yours.
Right. Seems
Famous
How did-
people, Swin Cash, WNBA star, Bill Robinson, former baseball player and coach,
Mm.
and a bunch of anthropologists, which I guess
A-
makes
a
sense with all the Marshylands and the famous Boothertons. So that's your
How did
fun
that
facts
fire-
about McKeesport, PA.
Does it say how that fire started? Was it one of those staticky laundromat type fires?
Mm.
or was this like a legit, no lightning involved type fire?
Moving on, it's time for some sleeping arrangement hilarity.
Oh,
Of course,
God.
we only have one bed, so
So weird.
good old Bootherton
So
gets out
weird.
the clothesline and does the classic split down the middle, which is how everybody in comedy shows sleeps, and no one in real life sleeps.
Again, this would be a very different show if she showed up in a different person's room. Like this
Yeah.
could have been absolutely terrifying. Like bedtime. Like this is. I still feel very uncomfortable with the storyline. I have to be
So
totally honest
uncomfortable.
with you. Like I'm
Very
not
uncomfortable.
I have
cool
them
with it.
written as
It
Harold
was
and
like
Maude
teetering
a
the
few
line the
times
whole
in
time.
here.
Yep.
It was kind of a Harold and Maude thing, but not. But that was of the time. There was a lot of like Bad News Bears with Buttermaker,
Yeah.
and it's like,
Mm.
but
Just a weird
yeah.
dynamic.
I
to-
felt very
Mm.
creepy. Like it just felt so creepy, this whole scene.
Yeah.
She basically she thanks him, which is nice, and calls him grandpa, which is
Disgusting.
yeah.
Yeah. A little manipulative too. If she'd known that, you know what I mean? It's a little like, maybe manipulative is the wrong word, but just, well, maybe. Just
No,
weird.
I think it's kind of right because it feels like, oh, he did this thing and now she got what
Like
she
she-
wanted.
But
Yeah.
again, you can't tell because I don't think this woman's a good enough actor to connotate anything. It's all
Right.
kind of the same beat
Yeah,
the whole
At
time.
the same time, her whole like background story is shady. She disappears for an extra day in Mexico, which I've shared my theory. I'm just saying it's just weird. The whole there was an episode before where there was another sort of runaway, right? And he bought a ticket and do you want to be with his parents?
That
And
kid was
remember that whole
8.
thing? He was 8.
He was
Mm.
8.
And
What
he
is up
played
with-
that same thing. This couple had their child had passed, and he was like, "Oh, can I call your mom?" Like,
Oh,
Yeah, that was
like-
weird.
this is all.
like that
Yeah.
happened twice in half of a season. You're just like, damn.
Again, just we're just recycling. I'm really disappointed.
It's
We're
a
just
writer's strike. Writer's strike. I think we should look it
or
up.
they should have been, or they should have gone on strike.
Yeah,
one or the
Yeah.
there's
other.
somebody after this.
Right.
You see
Before
Charles
this.
Bronson catch a stray in here?
Yeah, I heard the Bronson, but I didn't get the full reference.
So Franklin with a Y's clothesline bit is from Clark Gable's movie, and he references it. And she doesn't know who Clark Gable is because she's
Mm.
young.
Right.
And he's like, if Charles Bronson were really tough, he'd be Clark Gable. It's like, wow, man.
oh,
Nice
I do
crapping on
remember that now. Like,
Bronson.
I don't know. Charles Bronson was a. Well, anyway.
Unnecessary. What are you doing? Death Wish, Will Gear? Like, are you doing? Is that what
he's
you're
not
doing? You're
it.
going for
Yeah,
that?
lay down, sir. Go to sleep.
He also goes to sleep in his glasses, which Beth, I don't know if you've done this, but like you fall asleep in your glasses, you roll over, break the arm. It's a nightmare. You can't fall asleep in your
If you
glasses.
fall asleep in your glasses, it's like you had a rough night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, or you
I
fall
feel
asleep in
like-
your contact. That's not good either. So, but
Yeah.
I feel like if you fall asleep with your glasses, it's like you don't have to get ready because you are ready. So like if something happens, I'm just like, and I can see. You know what I mean?
yeah, but
I'm
if you're,
eliminating
if
the
you're
step.
somebody like me,
Yeah.
if I ever
There's
wake up and
steps.
can see, that's a nightmare.
Fair
Something's going awry. I
Yeah.
haven't been able to see when I woke up for 40 years.
I recently got LASIK, so it's like the best decision I ever made. But I remember when I would fall asleep in my contacts, I'm like, oh no, this is
Ugh.
not a good
Dry.
night.
Oh God. Can you imagine what 1977 contacts were too? They were just, oh
Coke
God.
bottles. Yeah.
Oh,
Jeez.
hubcaps. Just they were made of metal.
Yeah.
Thin metal. Just the worst.
Yeah.
So the next scene is weird for a couple of reasons. This is Gopher throwing a bottle overboard, saying he's saying it to his grandmother.
Right.
Doc. So it's weird because it's weird, but it's also weird because it felt like this is the first time we've seen these, Mike. I won't be surprised if we see more. That was clearly just they taped a bunch of bits to throw into different episodes that had nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, I was so confused. I actually had to rewind and rewatch the scene because I'm like, I don't understand this
Yeah.
whole storyline.
It's like a you can't do that on television bumper. Like it was just a scene for a scene's sake. And there's
Well,
another
same
one
thing
later.
with the plant one about the captain's plant like salt
Yeah.
water and he like chucks
So
it
we-
off, which is like
We've talked about this. Like they should do more stuff like this. Like when we talked about security, right? We were like, just tape a guy, throw it in there. So if they're doing that, it makes sense. But again, just another example of the padding that was going on in this episode.
Hmm.
yeah, they were Yeah, there wasn't much to tell. I mean, the the quote unquote grandpa story, the creepiest story ever, is there's so much. Like after about halfway, I was like, all right,
Yeah.
can we wrap up this
Yeah.
because I felt
Yeah.
like the episode there were things happening, but nothing was really happening at the same time. Like it was just like
Like, how did we not
yeah,
get that scene where he can't find his wallet and blames her or something like
Right.
oh,
Something.
that?
Yeah.
Right. You know, like he
there's
thinks he got
money
rolled by the yeah.
missing and
Right.
something.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Now they're playing shuffleboard. He's old, so he's great at shuffleboard.
Sure he is. His middle
Mm.
name is Shuffleboard.
Is this when they start doing the chants and everything, or is that
The
later?
yoga chants.
Okay, it's
Yeah,
coming up.
it's just
Yeah.
Mhm.
okay.
And then I
So
was
now
like, is that
finally
what
we're back
yoga
to the
was? Is that what yoga was
just
in the 70s?
home.
You said
I don't
crisscross
know.
applesauce. Like, is that
Yeah.
okay,
And
cool.
chant.
And chant. Okay, cool.
Plus, you're 16. I mean, how deep into yoga are you?
That's what I was like, this does not track. She would not know about yoga. Like
What is
this
she
doesn't
doing?
make
That's why
any
these foster
sense.
parents are mad.
Yeah, she's off the rails.
Trying to
This kid.
sleep.
Bad crowd.
Back to the captain's cabin. Stubing is checking out the progress of the painters. All they've done is mix the colors. They've been mixing for 2 days apparently, and they don't even have the color exactly right. And they said they could just take out some of the smidges.
They added 3 smidgens instead of 2 smidgens.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah. Stubing's pissed. And he
He's pissed.
basically is like, he tells Julie, he's like, if you don't get these guys on track, I'm going to throw them off the next port. Why do the painters keep up the shtick when no one else is in the room?
Drugs, Mike. They're both on a lot of drugs throughout this entire experience. That's what's going on.
So they're
Because
conning
obviously,
themselves.
yeah, they are not operating on the same plane that we operate on because
It's
they are
method acting.
oblivious. It's
Method
method
acting.
acting because they're just oblivious. It's
The only ones that are committed to the craft.
100%.
Well, that's why they're good con men, right?
I
If you never
respect it.
Yeah,
It was great.
always on.
Love the painters.
Julie gets hit with paint. Everybody gets hit with paint. It's hilarious.
Wah, wah, wah.
All right, this is the crisscross, yoga
Ugh.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
just I mean,
Really.
then they start singing "Home on the Range." Like,
Right. Oh, it's so weird.
would a 16-year-old know "Home on the Range"?
Also, I wondered that too.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Man,
Do you think that was the concert that she was going to see for
that's
2
it.
days?
Whoever sings "Home on the
Whoever
Range,"
sings that, like, I don't even know who that is.
I don't
Like
even-
Roy Rogers or somebody.
Yeah.
something. Glenn Campbell, something like that. Yeah,
So you're right, Mike. We're still in Act 2. That story is kind of dying on the vine.
it's completely done.
Already.
What is there left
Right.
to say?
Yeah.
And they're supposed to show that, like, they're forming a bond. He's like,
Sure.
his heart is melting. But I'm like, there's many other ways it could have happened.
Right. And when you do that, you need a much more significant. We talked about this last week with the Lifetime movie or the Hallmark movie. You need that kind of drama right towards the end.
Yeah.
And
Right.
she was gone for like 4 minutes. Like they didn't even like give you enough time to think she really left.
Right.
Well, here the thing is, she like extended her trip in Mexico and came back. What if she had come back on time? Like you would have had, they would have been like, well, crap. Now we have like 7 minutes of nothing. It's just weird that you can really feel the stretches in some of the stories. Just kind of.
Speaking of stretching, Potsy's out jog. This is weird. So he's out jogging now on the deck, which like
Who's
I don't know.
jogging on a cruise deck? Did
it
you,
seems like there's no room on that particular size deck to jog. Like, isn't there a gym?
I will
Please tell
say
me.
there are like short strips of track. It's
Fair
not
enough.
very long, but people are running it, and it's. I'm always like, you couldn't just make this a little bit longer, or like.
Well,
That's-
could they do? Were people like running around the ship though, like
Yeah.
making their own running paths?
Yeah,
Huh? Well, fair enough. I can buy that because I was like, wait, why?
I think you get a little stir crazy, and
can see
I
that.
mean the cruise ships today I mean, I haven't gone in maybe like 15 years, but like the one
Right.
that I was on, there were so many activities. Like they did have like a basketball court, things like
Right,
that.
right. Interesting.
So let's see. Julie. Okay, Julie runs into him, right? Like literally runs into him.
Mhm.
So she's just been circling him this whole time at this
Yeah,
point,
just chasing him.
and
It's just
invites him
Pathetic.
to her. Now, so here's your point, Beth. Like the first
pathetic.
meeting, maybe kind of feeling it out. Subtleness has gone away at this point
Yeah.
now. So she invites him back to her cabin to quote look at snapshots of the old gang,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which I
God.
guess is like look at pictures of my phone,
Yeah.
right? But so it's not weird
That's
to carry
just
a
weird.
million
No,
photos.
that's the old version of like Netflix and chill.
Netflix and chill.
But here's the
Look at my
thing:
box of
So-
photos.
Right.
we think it's the same boat every time, which means Julie would leave stuff in her cabin all the time. I guess like she's
Mhm.
not packing that photo album every week.
No, yeah.
That's my ad
She is
for
a
it.
little crazy. I mean, there's no telling.
She does
Who
seem a little
knows?
psychotic.
Who knows?
I mean, she had that old photo of that boyfriend in her wallet.
like that newspaper clipping. She got
Like
it
a
looked like a
newspaper,
shady
like he was-
photo.
he was
She
was
just
missing.
makes like single women look so desperate. I hate this whole story.
Yeah.
But it's
And
weird
it's
because
funny because
sometimes
it's not right. It's not consistent. Like
It's not
this is
consistent.
not what she's been the whole time, but the last
Mm.
few episodes, she's definitely been this.
So she's been like a strong woman in other episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But then, man,
I
when
mean-
she gets man crazy, it is.
Yeah.
But she's like known for doing like the right thing and being like professional in some of these other episodes, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
she's like
Just out of
desperately
character.
throwing herself at. It's just it's like been a running thing. This might be the third episode in a row where
Yeah.
this has happened.
She would be fired right away for hitting on a guest on a
I would
cruise.
think.
Again,
Yeah.
there's no HR director on this boat.
Zero.
Right. Clearly not.
Maybe she's the HR director. Maybe
Well, her
Doc's
boss
the HR
is-
director.
Oh.
Boss is obsessed with the color of his room, so he's nowhere to be seen.
That's
Right.
true. He's not handling this.
Anarchy.
So Julie says that she's a direct person and asks Sean, this is where they needed to do a better job. She basically asks him, is there any reason that we can't, and then gives him like a little opportunity and he says nothing again.
Yeah.
Right.
He runs
And
away.
then she's like, keep jogging. And then they just run off into a commercial break.
It was a weird.
Yeah.
That
This
was
is-
I don't know. That didn't
yeah.
make any. All right. Well,
You could have gotten to the same point, but given Anson Williams
Something.
like a little something.
Yeah.
Or you know
did
what should have
she-
happened? He should have confided in somebody else on the show so you knew, and then the awkwardness made a little more
Uh-oh.
sense.
Yeah. But I hate that she's like, I love him.
Oh, that is
just so.
that's one of the worst things we've seen any character do. That was insanity.
It's so unnecessary. Like we get it, but you're painting her character in such a corner now.
Oh,
And
And now,
God.
you
like like every episode after, I'm gonna be like, this
She
lady
just
right
hooked
here,
up
Like,
It wasn't last week. It was the week before. She hooked up
Mm.
with Robert Urich. Her
Hmm.
old boyfriend showed up. She hooked up with him. She hooked up with another guy that just showed up on the boat.
all the
What
over
a-
60s tour guys.
She's just, living her best
She's
single
spiral-
life.
She's
Or
spiraling.
she's-
I'm worried.
Or
I'm
she's a
worried about it.
floozy. Who knows?
But at this
I'm worried
point, I
about
almost feel like it'd be easier for her just to be a floozy. But
Mm-hmm.
instead, she's just like, I don't think it's. I think she just it's like she wants
It's
love. so
desperate.
bad.
She wants love.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what makes it so hard to watch because it's
It's
just like,
sad. It's
Yeah.
sad.
The
to
love
the
thing
point-
really threw it into a level that I was not ready for. Everything
Right, 'cause
else
if
is
she
just kind of
owned-
bad hookup, right?
if she owned her sexuality and was like, oh, I'm a hot, hot
Yeah,
red-blooded woman, then I'd be like,
We've
yeah,
all had-
okay,
we all
girl,
had
you go get
crushes
it. Like, do
growing
your
up.
thing.
girl.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, she's just like chasing it, and that's what makes it so cringe. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
she doesn't have respect for herself, and I hate that.
Maybe the love boat itself is just a metaphor for Julie's
Oh,
views on
Spiral.
love. There's ebbs
Yeah.
and flows
Downward
waves
spiral.
Sure.
Right.
But it is,
Yeah.
but that's the thing though, is it bugs me because I think it takes away some of the creativity because you paint her character in such like a crappy. But maybe in the 70s it wasn't. Maybe that's not crappy in the 70s. Like I don't know. But it's just
I,
weird.
yeah, I don't know.
It's just inconsistent with what we've seen of the character so far.
Absolutely.
I will say, okay, give it to we're in the 70s. I think that love tends to happen a lot more quickly back then, or just like you take things as face value. You're like, okay, you're my person and we're gonna make it
Right.
work. So I guess that's very true to the times. But if this is what doesn't track now, like this would never be okay now.
Like people,
Plus
more
you're at
people
work.
bought
Plus
into
you're
it.
at work. Plus you're at
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
I wonder if more people bought into that whole you meet your one, you get met. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like they
Yeah.
follow that
Very fairy
course.
tale.
So I
Right.
wonder in this, you can almost say it from the outside, or maybe some in the 70s going, well, she just
Mm.
hasn't found her.
Right. And this
Maybe,
is what
but-
poisoned, little girls'
Yeah.
minds about what love is supposed to be like.
It's just weird.
He's
It's
just
weird.
not that into you, Julie.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, damn.
Oh,
Like, stop. It
The
bugs me.
but I tell you who does have her stuff together is Nancy.
Nancy's got her
Yeah.
stuff together.
So her and Bootherton have this long ass scene on the deck where they talk about stuff. And Bootherton's this is your point, Beth. He's trying to
Yeah.
they're trying to convey the fatherly relationship and all that stuff. And she
Right.
even says you give good advice, but he's basically trying to get her to go back to Los Angeles and finish school. And she eventually agrees with him, but says that she still wants to go tell Randy face to face, which is the right thing to do. So good for Nancy. That's a
Mhm.
stand up move right there. Other
kept
people would just
thinking-
cut and run.
I was thinking, like, well, I wonder where in Los Angeles he lives. And I was thinking about that. I was like, he's supposed
Yeah.
to be like all this money, or
Yeah.
almost
Well,
like say the version of
Bootherton
Daddy
doesn't live in
Warbucks.
Los Angeles.
I thought that.
He lives in McKeesport.
Oh,
She lives in Los
Oh.
I'm
Angeles.
so sorry. I kept thinking I had it wrong. I
No,
don't know why I kept. For some reason, I had him not going.
oh,
back
that
to
guy's not a Los
McKeesport.
Angeles kind of guy.
Mm.
He'll
Well,
stay
that's
in
why I was confused
McKeesport.
about
Thank
this
you.
too. I
Yeah.
I was with you, Mike. I thought that I was like, this doesn't make sense.
It's weird. Yeah, it's just like
That scene goes on for like a while, which again,
it's
just
a long scene, a lot,
Yeah.
lot
We
of
didn't
camera
need it.
time, man.
yeah, a
Just
lot of
really
green
driving
screen
the
behind
point
there
home.
too. I'll give them
Yeah.
credit. They clearly had green screen, but they at least thought to put a fan so her hair
Yeah.
was blowing around. So
Yeah,
good
it made it
job.
better.
Good job
Yeah.
there.
Then I was like, well, how do they mic that? It's impossible. But yeah, it sounded all right.
The painters are back.
Love
Stubing's
the
trying to get ready to go to his dinner in his little short jacket, and it's just a comedy scene where he's just kind of trying to go around
So
all
good.
the paint scaffolding, and of course, he's got Singapore Sunrise saffron on his jacket.
But here, couldn't they have just ended this right here? Don't get me wrong, I love
Yeah.
the painters. He got the color he wanted in his room,
Yeah.
but he was mad because the color wasn't just in his room, right? That's what the whole thing was about. So did
So
the
I get
hallway stay
confused.
the?
So I got confused about that. So were those hallways always the color, and that's where he got the inspiration, or did the con men paint everything?
I think they ended up painting more because I think that he was like mad because that's his favorite color and he wanted it for himself.
Right.
Yeah,
It wasn't totally clear if it was part of the con or yeah, if he realized his hubris had gotten the best of him, one or the other.
I feel
Maybe.
like maybe the person that was creating the set messed up and they were just like, well, we can't change it now.
we don't have that kind of money.
Right.
That's funny.
All right. Here we go. Now we're really getting into it. This
All
is
right,
the
now
money
we go.
scene.
This
This
is
whole
the-
thing right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
we've
I
hit
feel
on
like
some of this already.
I need a new drink for the scene. I can't.
Yeah,
do
I know,
this.
right?
rough,
So Julie, who just is not working. She's just not working today on this cruise.
Yeah.
So she's walking with Sean out on the deck. He's in a tux. So at what point was this guy going to come clean? Like, there's
My point
never
exactly.
there's never been a part where he even does the, hey, listen, I probably should tell you, and then they get interrupted, or she's like, no more talk, or you know what I mean? Like he
Yeah,
never
or before you
even
embarrass
tries.
yourself, because I've known you for you're almost
Yeah.
your entire life. Like if you can't be real with someone you've known for your entire life,
Yeah.
Like,
Or
what kind
well,
of
here's
priest is
one.
this guy?
Hide behind the
Yes, that's exactly what I thought. I was like, you're a priest. You're supposed to be great at communication. This
guy's-
man is
This guy
terrible at
sucks.
communication.
This guy's
Yeah.
terrible. He's drinking. He doesn't give a shit. Like he's
You
Yeah.
just go
yeah, it
in.
doesn't make-
You go into confession, and there's just
the
nobody on
worst.
the other side talking.
Right.
It's just like,
But again,
Exactly.
was his plan?
bless
it
me,
took a
Father, because I
heart
have sinned.
Well, it took a heart attack for us to find out he was a priest.
Yeah.
So had this not happened, he was just
Right.
gonna sneak off the boat? Like he was just gonna run out of his room? Like what? Again, big old
It's just-
broad strokes.
It's just ridiculous. So Julie's cold, although maybe a move. Who knows?
Yeah.
But Julie said she's cold, so she gets her jacket,
Ugh,
and then
It's
it is.
definitely a
So
move. It was a
she's-
move
There
for
it
sure.
is.
so then she
Lowest
says that I've
point.
always had a crush on you, and that
Mm.
throws him into Like-
Spiral.
just so this whole
So flustered.
time he was not picking up on the fact that she was hitting on him and had a crush on him the whole time.
Well, because there was a
That was
window.
the first time
of,
he
like,
actually was
right.
like
There
aware.
was a small window of like potential misinterpretation. Potential,
Right.
like not much, but right, tiny. But
And Mike,
now,
Well-
we've talked about this on the show previously.
Yeah.
You're someone who has admitted that maybe you don't pick up on all the signs in your dating days.
right.
If you were
yeah.
in exact everything that happened in this thing from what you had seen, would you have been able to pick up that Julie was hitting on you?
Not until this scene right here. In all
I
honesty.
would also give him the benefit of the doubt. So typically, if he's on a crisis of faith right now,
Right.
moment.
Rumspringa.
So he probably is
Reverse
wearing reverse Rumspringa. He's probably wearing his priest clothing on a typical basis. But the cruise is like his Rumspringer. He's allowed to wear regular clothes. So women are probably like making passes at him all the time, and he's just like, hiding behind my little.
Maybe he just thinks Julie's ugly. That's what it was.
Why
It's
not
like,
hide
yeah, I'm a
behind?
priest. I'm not even really
Yeah.
a priest. I just don't have
Right.
the heart to tell you I'm not.
Why
attracted.
not hide behind the
He's
best
just not
friend
that into
thing?
her.
Just not
Just
in
hide
me.
behind the best friend thing. It'd be weird, Julie. I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
best friends with your brother.
What proof? What proof did he give
Yeah.
that he was a priest? What he pulled out a piece of what?
He pulled out that Halloween costume. Yeah.
What was it? If you pull out the white collar and the thing, it's just a piece of white. I don't.
It's
You know
just
what? I don't think
cardboard.
he's a priest. I don't think he's a priest. Because how is that? Do you have like a
I
membership
mean,
card?
if I could have found my Halloween costume from like 12 years ago, I would have had a priest outfit on tonight. But when you move this many times,
Damn.
that didn't make it.
It's not even like he's like, oh, look at me, like Spider-Man. He rips off
Yeah.
his clothes and he has like a priest
Or like a
uniform
rosary
underneath,
or
or
cross.
something. I didn't
Yeah.
see anything that proved to me he was a priest. He was just like,
Right.
Julie, girl, no, girl, it's not you, girl. I'm a priest.
It's God.
just
Yeah.
couldn't- it's God, girl. I can't. That's what it is. Poor Julie.
So he panics and
Yeah.
runs away to go
Well, because
mail.
you have
postcard.
nowhere to run. There's nowhere to go in that moment when she's being that blunt. You're like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what, Mike? No, you do have the parachute of truth.
Right.
I'd just be paralyzed,
He
man.
shouldn't be lying. Like, why
No.
is he just
There's
not
no
telling-
reason to lie.
No.
Well,
there's no
and
Get
he's
out
a
of
man-
jail.
He's a man of God. He should just be direct.
I'm starting to think you're right, Beth, about the thing where he wanted to hook up with Julie, but they
Yeah.
needed to do a better job of conveying that
Right.
the battle of good and
Internal,
evil. in
yeah,
the
there
his
was
head.
no-
internal conflict.
Yeah,
Right.
they never showed that.
And
other
you
side.
had
Not
Mickey
much.
O'Day sitting right there, so all you needed to do was have
Yeah.
Isaac or whoever be the
Yeah.
other side of the argument, and there's your episode. It's perfect.
Right.
Maybe Mickey O'Day was that voice that he, was that voice.
Yeah,
that
he's
he
horny
didn't
Jimmy
The
have.
Cricket.
devil.
Right. Yeah, that's the devil. Maybe
When
he's
you
the
wish
devil.
upon a star,
There it is.
Julie is devastated. We have
Yeah.
seen her
She's
get
cried every
rejected
episode,
by
bro.
her former love, and she was less devastated than this.
Well, they this embarrassment too. I think it's not just like he doesn't love me or he doesn't like me. It's like, holy crap! I just threw myself at my brother's, childhood best friend.
That
And he's a
story's gonna get
priest.
back. Yeah.
Of
Well, she doesn't
course.
know that yet,
Oh,
though.
Yeah.
So who comes to the rescue whenever relationship trouble arises?
So
Just put up the signal, and
There
Adam
it is.
Bricker will be there.
Adam Bricker.
Doc shows up and kind of like tries to calm her down, and he makes a good point. Some guys are a little dense when it comes to flirting.
Yeah.
Some, not anybody on this call, but some
It's just,
guys.
you know what it is? It's a battle that goes on. People like this that are girl dumb. It's a combination of two things, right? It's a combination of like,
I feel like you're doing an ad for like, are you girl?
Right.
but this is like it's a battle between confidence and awareness, right? Because you're like, okay, I'm aware that this is happening, but I don't necessarily think I'm confident enough to accept that this is really happening. So all you can do is just uncomfortably make a joke, back up, sort of like get a second opinion. But by that time, it's all single dating life for me was a
It's
nightmare. Good
oh
Lord.
God, but it's also just putting so much pressure and onus on the woman to have to like make the
Yep.
first move, do all these things.
Yep. It's
Like,
just a weird, it's
Beth,
such
do you
a,
think, put yourself in the context of the late 70s, do you think that he is an attractive enough man that he gets hit on a lot, or is
that
this
guy?
something? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's like Jesus in the streets, Satan in the sheets. Like he should be.
that was awesome. I've never heard that.
Well, no wonder Julie's so horned up.
That's it. That's it right there. Well, now all I can think about is that Philly Jesus guy. I was in an elevator with him when I was on jury duty.
What's Philly Jesus taking an elevator for? You can walk.
Yeah,
sir.
where's he going?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I went like
nobody's
this. I
going
walked
into the second floor of anything.
in the elevator and I was like, and he was like,
He's ascending to the CJC. Probably he was in trouble.
he had that big cross with him too. Like he did the whole thing. I was checking
Yeah.
out his shoes. He did have sandals on.
Wow.
So
He's committed.
So is the advice good for her if she is into him?
Yeah.
And she did make a good point that maybe there was some vagary. I agree with you, Beth. It should not be on the woman.
Yeah, 'cause that
But
guy's like,
if-
oh, well, why don't you make a pass at him? Because why should I have to do all the work? She's like, I've been trying. Why do I need to
But
do
if
this?
it's what you want, I don't know.
Some guys are just girl dumb, to be honest with you. Like it's got to be this crazy.
But what if
But
he's a
again,
dick? What if he's
you
a
snooze,
dick?
you lose.
though?
You
Yeah,
snooze, you lose.
exactly. Like, what if he's just not into her?
Yeah.
Right.
Like she's not even. Yeah.
I will
Well, the
say
interesting
that's
thing is
where she's
you
got
don't
the
want to
confidence.
you don't want to
Yeah.
embarrass yourself, right? But then you go and embarrass yourself
Hmm.
in
Like
a
in
le-
exactly the way you never wanted to embarrass yourself, and then you're like, but it doesn't seem to stop her from doing it again and again and again. So
No, because I mean, she's living life to the fullest, and she's like, I'm gonna find
that's
love
it. On this boat.
on this
So
boat.
we
While
go
the world-
back to Mickey. We go back to Mickey and Sean's room. Mickey is getting ready to go out for whatever action that would
Goodness
definitely get him
only
canceled
knows.
today.
Yeah.
And he asks Potsy why he's being such a dud when Julie is clearly interested, and he just gets another blank stare. This guy's just
Right.
an idiot.
Right. And it's like these are the moments where he can just be honest. And it's like those are the scenes where it's
Just-
like you can give more of a
Right.
storyline now.
Right. Like,
You
why
can
would you
have to-
not tell him? The creepiest guy you know. Why would you not tell him that
Right.
you're a priest and I'm having trouble?
And it also gives him an opening. It's like, okay, well, maybe if this guy goes after Julie, then she'll get off my back.
Oh,
Funny way to look at it.
that's 3D chess right there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Man.
wow.
Wow.
That would be
Didn't even occur to me.
wow. That would be such a bottom.
meta.
That would rock.
Yeah.
That'd be rock bottom, right? For Julie. Yeah, that's
Oh,
rock
yeah.
bottom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like this happens and then she leaves the room and he finds
We are
he
writing
sees her
such a
making-
better
he sees him making out with
episode than this
Right.
was.
Yeah.
It's very much like a Build-A-Bear sort of thing. We could have taken these pieces and made a much better episode.
So
Right.
Mickey actually has a brief introspective moment where he basically tells Sean that if he's not careful, he'll end up being a lonely, desperate man like him.
Right.
But then the door
I thought
knocks and-
was- yeah.
The door knocks and Julie's ready to go, and he checks out. Like so, moment gone.
Right.
Imagine being like the final nail in the decision to like whether or not to be a priest or not. Julie's gonna be like, I am the single reason that this man, I made this man run to God,
Right.
like to get away. Oh,
Right.
jeez.
I would never recover from that. Like, I
Oh.
just,
No wonder she
So
should still be
we've
crying
all-
to this day. That's awful. Oh
Yeah.
man, poor Julie.
We've all had bad flirting. No need to go into it. We all know we've done
Sure.
things that you would not want to be on the Love Boat cameras. You know,
yeah.
Sure.
this is pretty bad.
This is the reverse Sound of Music. Like, he stayed with God.
Yeah, that's
So Julie comes in and she says that she's not Bobby's little sister anymore. That made sense. Like, I actually think get that one
Yeah.
out of the way. Like
Right.
that, because to me, they should have hit that harder. Julie should have been like, is it because I'm, Bobby's little sister? I'm not, that makes sense.
Right. She's
But
like, we're
then
both
the-
adults.
Right. But then the full grown, red blooded American woman looking for a full grown, red blooded American man.
This
is
was so
awful.
cringe. I don't even know how she got through saying that line. Like, how many takes do you think that took? Because I would not have. I would have been so unwell.
Who wrote that? Ugh.
Who? Yeah.
Someone who's never, maybe Anson Williams did. Maybe this is like a true to life story.
Just, I know he directed a couple episodes of Happy Days later on.
Yeah.
It's just so bad on so many levels. To your point, Beth, that the fact that you have to subject yourself to that because this guy's not responding and you don't have the agency to walk away.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it doesn't work.
Right.
And then you firebomb it immediately
Ugh.
because she's so embarrassed, which I get that, but like it's
With
weird
zero
to be
awareness.
embarrassed after you say it, but not embarrassed while you're saying it.
Well, and it's not it's not like she didn't already throw herself at him
right.
in different ways. So it's like in her mind, she was like, oh, maybe he didn't see me, or maybe he didn't hear me. Let me just go this crazy far.
Right.
Oof.
Even worse. Like inviting him back to
possible.
my room didn't work. So let me try.
Yeah, let me try
one more
this.
time.
We try
What?
breaking into his room
Ugh.
where he's got nowhere to run.
Ugh.
It's like I said, everybody's got a couple in their story in their head, but that's as bad as anything I've ever heard
It's terrible.
someone
It's
do.
terrible.
Yeah.
So she
There should be
immediately
a
feels
Julie scale, like a cringe scale for her flirtations.
Oof. It's a good.
that's got to be the worst, right, Mike?
Oh yeah. That's
Because at least with the other like failed marriage proposal, there had been some history there.
Mm.
well with the married.
I'm not saying it was
man,
great, but like that was probably like a 7.5 on the Julie scale. This is a 10.
yeah. Well, I think it because it's her brother's childhood friend. It just gives it that.
Yeah,
little
what's that
boost
story
to
like
be
when you get
number one.
home?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm her brother. I'm like, hey, Julie, what the hell's wrong with you? What are you doing? Like,
Can you imagine getting a text from your
home.
friend and being like, your sister just said
Yeah.
she's a full grown red-blooded American woman to me.
But that's why you just go to that. You go to that right away. You just throw that up immediately.
yes.
He's not an idiot. He knows she's
No,
hitting
he
on it.
knows.
Right. I'd
Of
be like,
course he
oh,
does.
I can't wait to tell your brother that you said that line to me.
Yeah, you're creeping me
Seriously.
out.
Oh God, you'll never. Oh,
Like you're
you
creeping
just have
me
to get
out.
so
or
drunk that
whatever.
you hope you forget it.
Right.
That's what Julie should be doing after this.
She should have a drinking problem at this point.
Wow. Oh, look at
Yeah.
that.
Well, unfortunately, the actress did. So
Yeah.
Oh.
Life
Well,
imitated art.
yeah,
or
if,
art
you know,
imitated life.
If these
That's
are the
the-
lines that I was fed, I would also have a drinking problem. I'd be like,
Right.
I'd have to be drunk to get through the script that you
But
wrote
that's
me.
the worst part. I know for myself, every one of my bad flirting stories involves alcohol. So to do this sober is 10 times worse.
It's
Yeah.
awful.
You
She
can't even
be
pretend
sober.
that you were drunk.
God.
Mm.
Potsy tries to reassure her that it's not true, that she could vamp a guy who's been stranded on a desert island for 40 years. But he doesn't take the opportunity
Yeah.
to say, and don't beat yourself up because I'm a priest.
Right. That's all he had to say.
Right. So he's letting her hang, and then the door knocks, and it's Mickey O'Day who is having a heart attack. He was gone for 40 seconds.
Right.
It was a quick heart attack.
He comes back, his tie's all sideways.
Sweating.
But he asks for, as we all do, he asks for a doctor and a priest.
Yeah.
And when he did it, I still didn't figure it out. I
didn't
was
either.
like-
I actually had to rewatch the scene again because I was confused still.
I was,
I was-
too.
I was just
It's
like,
wait,
nope,
what?
didn't get. Julie
There's
goes for
nothing.
the phone. Right. Julie goes for the phone. Makes sense. She would know where the doctor is. And Sean goes for the dresser, which is such an odd thing to do. But he starts putting on all the, I'm not Catholic, all the stuff.
The decorations.
Yeah, right.
Decorations,
Yeah, accoutrement.
little costume. Yeah.
And then Julie still hasn't like told Doc like, hey, we got a heart attack here. She like, you're a priest. Hard
Right.
cut commercial. So,
Also,
poor Mickey
there
O'Day
could
just
have been
dying here.
better things. There should have been like he's like finicking trying to get the paper thing in, and it's just like give him a Bible and a rosary. Be like, call it a day.
Like an easy
Well,
prop.
Here's one.
Easy
Prop
prop.
his head
Just-
up and
Right.
get him some water while we're waiting for the doctor. Okay, the priest will wait. Like we all know why you need a priest.
You-
You're
You could have
good.
just had the Bible. You could have just
Yeah.
had him flip a Bible out of his bag
Right.
or something and be done with
Yeah.
it. With
The power of
big
Christ
font,
compels you.
Holy, yeah, just to
Yeah.
really drive the point home.
Right.
I just cannot even imagine if I'm Mickey O'Day and I think I'm dying, right? I totally think I'm dying. And then this guy is leaving to go into the dresser. Like, what do you think
Right.
he's doing, man?
to make sure he has the right garb on. I'd be like, are you
You
kidding
just
me?
have to.
Yo, could you get my shoes off or something? I'm dying here. Like,
I'm having
think-
a heart attack.
I think something tells me that our friend Mickey O'Day, this isn't the first time he's almost died. I mean, judging by his how many
Right.
jumpsuits he
His
brought,
His demands.
he's not new.
Yeah.
He's not new to this. He knows
Yeah.
what's up.
He's like, get the priest.
I'll be fine in a minute.
Right. Like on
He
Law and
had a
Order, they
list.
yell, somebody call a bus because like an ambulance. But like he's like, give me a priest. I'm
Just
like,
give me
I
a
would never
priest.
say that.
it'd be great if you just
Not
started calling in
expecting to
other
have one in the
characters.
room.
Right.
Yeah.
Give me a bartender. Give me a runaway.
I would do that. I'd be like, Doc's died. Get me a scotch.
Yeah. Doc does show up, and of course, what does he prescribe? Pills.
Yeah.
So a mild sedative. He says he'll come back to check on him a couple times. So this boat does not have an EKG, or shouldn't you have him in the medical facility
Well,
for observation?
listen,
Or like a first aid kit, at least for fake it. Like just
Something.
I have
Like
a
why
bit
is
of
he
a-
not sleeping on the medical table
right.
in Doc's
have a-
office?
I have a bit of a medical background, and my biggest issue here is I don't know if that's what you should be giving to somebody who had a heart attack. Like,
More pills.
let me give you something that's going to slow you down a little bit, right? 'Cause just in
Right.
case you're stressed. Like, maybe stress isn't the number one symptom you need to be treating right now.
Right.
'Cause
Or,
that's his
let's lodge
answer to
more pills
everybody.
down here and hope that
Well,
like you
he
can make it
gave
through
the same
night.
pills to the captain in a few minutes before he sees his room. So it's like
Doc's
he's
got,
got
one
one pill.
move.
he's
I've
got
got
he's got
one
a big
move.
old bucket of these tranquilizers.
Yeah.
Like, really, is that? Like,
I
I,
mean,
don't know if that's
also-
what I need.
Here would be a bit of a storyline if Doc was actually Randy, the boyfriend of
Randy, yeah, and he
The drug
disappeared
mule.
too.
He's the kingpin,
That's
making
it.
sure that she's making her runs.
He's hiding in plain sight.
They're never in the same scene.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
That'd be great.
We need to rewrite this entire episode.
Mm.
Mickey asks Doc to go tell the redhead that he was dancing with that he'll have to sit the next one out. That felt like a very game recognizes game kind of thing.
Right.
Like he wasn't going to ask anybody that, but he'll ask Doc that. Like go settle my affairs. You don't want to leave that. You don't want to leave that cigarette burning over there. You know.
Might
so-
cause a fire.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Same principle.
Sean, in addition to being a terrible communicator, as Beth pointed out, also just heartless because his roommate nearly died and he's out on the deck with Julie. Like,
Right.
Doesn't give
hang
two
around.
craps.
just hang around for a few minutes. You're a
Well,
priest.
shouldn't somebody stay and hang out with that guy who almost died,
Well,
who's now
that's
loaded on
the
tranquilizers?
priest. That's his job. It's the after part. The doctor does the first part, then the priest comes in and does the
Right.
after.
Nope. I have to wrap up my storyline with Julie.
Yeah, it was a weird move.
So now he finally explains the reverse Rumspringa. Julie feels like a fool, but he basically made it sound like he was taking the cruise to try and decide if he could be a priest or not. I guess that's a good idea, Beth. If you're saying you run into a lot of people, maybe that
No,
is a good.
I actually, well, I think if he's really going to do the Rumspringa of like trying to figure out if he's a priest or not, a cruise might be a good place because it's usually a casino. There's drinking, there's
Mm,
people.
There's some
So
sins on both.
Temptation.
yeah, there's like it's a floating bag of sins. So I feel like this
Floating
is
bag of
like
sins, sure.
I feel like he could really test himself.
So is his
Like, if I
roommate.
can,
Sure.
if I can get through all of this, then I can definitely be a priest.
Well, plus it's almost protecting you from anything terrible. Like it's not like he's going to. I'm going to go to Tijuana for a week and like let's see what happens.
It's
Let's roll the
contained
dice.
danger.
It's contained danger where it's only going to be so dangerous.
Do you think he knew because he's friends with the family? Do you think he knew Julie was on this boat and intentionally booked this cruise? She's like the final boss that he had to get by.
Yeah, he realized that he'd
She's
rather.
the apple.
That's it.
Yeah.
He was like, "No, dog, I don't even like apples. No, I'm good." And you know what? I love apples, but not
Yeah.
this particular apple.
Right.
This particular apple, not so much.
So-
Apple has already had a bite out of it.
Yeah, it's just this
A
weird.
lot of bites. A lot of
You know
bites. We're
what?
down to the
What's wrong with
core.
this apple? This apple is just crazy. Oh, fair
Right.
enough. Fair enough.
So he kind of lets her off the hook, which is his fault. I mean, as much as we want to make fun of Julie or blame Julie and all that stuff,
Right.
like he could have let her off the hook
It didn't need
at
to
the
get to
beginning
this
of
level.
this episode.
Like
Like,
after the
Yeah.
first one, why wouldn't you say, "Hey, if you feel comfortable enough to call someone like Metal Mouth after all these years, and you feel comfortable enough to be like, hey, do yourself a favor, don't embarrass yourself for the next
you
40
wasted-
minutes of television."
you wasted
Right.
this all my time. You wasted so much of my time. We could have just hung out as friends.
It's just-
Right. He's not a kind priest, that's for sure.
No, he's not.
So
That's
now
right.
they have a lovely platonic non-secular dance on the deck.
Good for
And
them.
that's kind of the end of that storyline.
There you go. Good riddance.
Thank God. Took forever to get.
It was too.
Li-
It's just,
Literally, thank God.
yeah, it's just. It's too much. No, they could have taken a shortcut.
Yeah.
The next morning, Gopher asks the captain for an update on the painting, and he does the same yellow Singapore sunrise saffron bit as Doc did. Gopher also points out that the hallway is in fact the same color as Stubing's favorite shade there, and that's where he freaks out. So the
'Cause he
painters
realized
show
he-
up.
Yeah.
Good.
Wasn't this the captain's fault? I mean, what a dummy. I'm just saying, you're surrounded by this color in the hallway. If
Yeah.
if
Well,
the
but we-
hallway was
we
always
don't-
that color, like what?
But we don't really know if it was always that color or not.
They alluded to it though a little
Hmm.
bit. They made
I
made
went
me
back and
feel
looked.
like, yeah.
I went back and looked, and in the earlier scene, it's not that color. Now, I am partially colorblind, so maybe I'm the worst one to answer this question.
No, I'd have to go back and look, but
Mm.
yeah.
Anyway.
Again, they're dragging this thing out. They're
Yeah.
dragging this.
Painters show up, and he's just pissed, and he's like, paint it blue. Just blue, not any kind of other fancy blue. Just paint it blue, because he's, to your point, Mike, he can't possibly have the same paint as the commoners see in the
No,
hallway.
no, he's not one of the
Right.
poors. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And they spill paint on his shoes. I don't know how. These guys
Always a
These
gimmick.
guys not only are
Right.
con artists, but they're kind of like dicks, which is great.
Yeah.
Right. I
Sure.
kind of like it because he's like, oh, this guy's like spitting on the peasants, and he's like,
Yep.
no.
They're taking their pound of flesh every time they can.
Yeah. This accidental awful things happen.
Yeah.
They're great.
Speaking of awful, Bootherston is in the dining room waiting for Nancy to get back from dumping Randy. He's got his tux on. He's got 2 candlelight. He had the steward mix up a bottle of carrot juice in a
Yeah.
champagne
This-
bottle.
Very creepy.
Creepy. Very
Creepy.
creepy.
So creepy.
He's explaining all this to
Imagine-
Julie, who now has time to work.
Drink this
because her
concoction
love
that I
is-
made
Like,
you.
what?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it's just terrible. But of course, Nancy never comes back, and this old man has drank an entire bottle of carrot juice.
Carrot juice.
Is still sitting in the empty dining room, smashes it into the champagne bucket. Go back to the room, man. She's got to stay in your room. She'll be back, or she won't be. But like, you don't need. She's not gonna show up at 1 a.m.
I would have been
Right.
fine with him dying right here, like
Yeah.
at that seat, waiting all night for the person to come back, and just that's it. He's out. So she comes back. You know, she's like, "Oh my God, look what I've done! I dumped Randy, Mexican
Mm.
Randy, and now my new ack." But yeah,
Yeah.
let him die in there.
And
All
then-
the carrot
and then-
juice.
And then, and then they're like, "Is there a priest?" And they all look to
Yeah,
Handsome
we got
Ream,
one.
Right.
and he's like, "Oh, I'm not a priest."
Yeah.
Nope.
It's like, I just didn't want to be with that woman.
It was just the cardboard thing that's in every dress shirt that you buy. That's all it
Right.
was. Huh?
He's like, I just shifted it around for my collar.
It was nothing. Completely fake. He's like, shh. And then he winks, and then it's the scene. Yeah.
And every time Julie walks in, he's got to pretend to be a
Gotta
priest.
Put it back on. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's reading the Bible. They
Why
leave,
didn't
and
we
he's just
write
like,
this?
"Eh."
We're so
Oh.
much better than this.
This
So
would be
much
a
better.
great episode.
Yeah.
Oh my god! All right, so the boat's leaving Puerto Vallarta in the morning, and Bootherton is sad again.
Of course.
And Steubing checks in on him because, again, Steubing's got nothing better to do than to inquisit about a person he met once. And Bootherton is like, you know, she's an adult. She can do what she wants. Steubing offers to have the authorities track her down. Steubing has no idea how old she is.
Right.
She could be 5. She could be 26. She has no idea. He has no idea. Like, either butt out or call the authorities. Like, anyway. But then they wait like what, 10 seconds,
Yeah.
and she shows back up, and everything's fine. She brought a burrito.
Yeah. She screwed it up.
Randy, good guy, drove the whole night to catch up with the boat
Mm.
because, you know, they got into a heavy conversation.
It's just a lie.
So I think you're Randy besmirching uncalled for.
I don't believe in Randy. I don't believe in some shady dude dating a 16-year-old girl
Right.
across international lines.
Yeah.
The whole
You
thing's
don't know.
shady as hell. That they
They
met
got
at
they got a deep
concert.
relationship, man. You don't know.
How do they
Okay.
talk? I want to know. How do they meet? How do they keep in contact?
Well,
This
they
makes
met
no
at
sense.
that Home on the Range concert. That
Long distance phone calls.
Hank
So
Williams
she's seen
Sr.
him. She's
concert.
only seen him once.
It did seem like that was it.
Yeah.
Just those 2 days standing in line at a concert, which seems like the
Jesus.
best place to meet your future spouse.
Yeah, I don't know if that's
Doesn't
probably
really
not.
track.
So we get the other weird comedy bit where Gopher throws the plant in the ocean.
Mm.
It's just rando.
They're on the Gulf of Mexico, right?
Mhm.
No, Pacific Ocean.
Oh, okay.
If you're LA to
Mm.
Because I was
Yeah,
going to say
Mexico.
salt. I don't think the Gulf has salt water, but yeah.
maybe brackish at times.
Anyway, it doesn't matter because I guess we're just going to see these bits now in future episodes.
I just wanted to use the word brackish today so I can check that box. Yeah, brackish. Good.
We are crawling to the finish line here. Doc and
It's-
Steubing
you know-
go to the cabin.
The whole
To,
episode just lost steam. It was just like
Yeah.
this
It
didn't
really
need
did.
to be a 40-minute. It was like okay.
Or they
the
needed
pa-
something else.
They put so many eggs in that grandpa girl storyline. It was just like, holy
All of
crap,
these
man.
could have been so much faster.
Just
You really could have had a 4th storyline this week.
that's what I was thinking, but it's
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
like, ugh.
Instead, they're just
So the-
polluting the ocean.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
painters painted
much.
everything blue. Hilarious.
everything.
Doc offers Steubing tranquilizers, the ones he stole off Mickey O'Day. He's speechless. He threatens to hang them by the yacht arm or yard arm.
No,
I wasn't sure
I'm
which
Not
one.
familiar with that.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. And then he gets blue paint all over himself. Hilarious. So Bootherton asks Gopher to set up a series of ship to shore calls. That's the whole scene. He comes down the elevator,
Oh yeah,
asks
yeah.
that, runs back in the elevator. That's the whole scene.
Hmm.
We're just wasting
They're just throwing
Just
crap at
wasting-
the
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, we need-
people's time. It is 10:47 on Christmas Eve, Santa is en route, and you are
Right.
wasting people's time with this nonsense.
No.
I could have been watching Noah's Ark.
Yeah, but imagine people are just like, oh, what's next? I mean, there was nothing on TV back then. So if you're watching
Right.
TV, it's like you have a 1 in 3 chance that they were watching this.
And ask
Essentially,
Santa for that time back that I'm never gonna get.
never
Yeah, you
gonna
gotta go
get
to
it.
bed. You gotta go to bed. It's like, you
Maybe
you
time
know what?
wasn't as valuable then.
Go
in
to
a way.
church. You gotta go to
Apparently.
church.
Yeah,
I'd go
time
to the
was
midnight
cheap back
mass
in
at
the
that
70s.
point. This episode was that bad.
It was
What
bad.
would you rather do? Midnight Mass or watch this episode? I bet you they're all hoping that they're gonna see what's his name? The fake priest
Or
at the
Santa.
Midnight Mass.
Yeah, he's like a thief in the night, that fake priest. No way he's a
Julie
priest.
tracks down the painters who are hiding behind the bar and tells them that they should get off the ship because Steubing's in his quarters. He'll kill them if they don't. They apologize for the mishap and manage to get midnight Mediterranean magenta on her hand. Also hilarious. And this is where they unveiled their con artists.
Yeah.
Fantastic unveil.
Which was
Loved it.
great.
So
I
great.
just never thought of them being con
Neither
artists.
did I.
Like,
loved it.
Didn't see it coming at all. It was great.
So
Can't
does
pay,
it make it
KFC,
a
but did it
good
for free cruise.
right?
Yeah.
Does it make it a good episode if you have two gotchas that three intelligent people did not get all these years later?
I didn't think they would do the double, to be honest. I
Yeah.
thought when the
Yeah.
priest thing, I'm like, okay, the painters is the painters.
Right.
I thought it was clever. Didn't see it coming.
So it's
I
like
like
the
that.
bones of there are bones here for a really good episode.
Mm-hmm.
It just
Yeah.
it didn't land.
No.
This is like if Chat GPT wrote an episode for the Love Boat. It's like
yes, it is. Yes.
there's some good nuggets, and then we just ruined it in the middle.
Yeah,
It's just weird.
they
Yeah,
do
like
kind of repeat
weird-
the same scene over and over again, like
Yeah.
like some of those
Right.
things do. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
like I said earlier, would totally watch a weekly show with the two painters or con artists where they just
Oh,
con people
yeah.
every week. Would be fantastic.
I'm with you on that.
The cruise is ending, thank God, and Nancy is sad. She accuses Bootherton of stalling, but then all of a sudden, her social worker shows up, and it turns out that's who Bootherton has been calling this whole time. This woman looks like what I think the 70s looked like.
Yeah.
Big glasses, that hair
Right.
that isn't moving. Like she probably has like a long cigarette.
Right. Virginia Slim.
Right, 120.
She has a Quaalude in her back pocket. It's like, she's just, she's doing her thing, man.
She's not chasing some man around. I'll tell you that.
No.
No.
She
she's
does.
on
She
a
doesn't
mission.
do chasing. That's not her.
You know what she's doing? She's gonna give Mickey O'Day another heart attack after they're done here.
Oh,
Yeah.
Turns out that Booth Thurston is trying to arrange to be her foster parent, and the social worker at least acknowledges the fact they have to do some sort of background check on a 75-year-old widower who lives 3,000 miles away in a river house.
Yeah.
Super easy, convenient.
So
And maybe the long game, the whole episode is just she's gonna end up being like the sole benefactor of this crazy
his fortune,
say
the
it. She's
Bootherton
playing the long
fortune.
Right.
game. Yeah, you never know.
So what happens there, right? Like, I don't know how quick you can turn around a foster parent situation, but let's say it's 6 months. She's going to be 18 in a while. She's living now. She grew up in Los Angeles. Now she's
Yeah.
going to McKeesport to live with this old man who she's known for like 4 days.
She's telling Randy, hold on a few more years, and they're gonna.
Yeah, I tell you one thing, it's a
Yeah,
hell of a
she's
lot
making-
longer drive to Acapulco from McKeesport. There's no direct flights there.
She's writing a lot of checks.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. Like you can't possibly.
I would recommend no to this foster parent change.
I mean, that's how
Sorry.
you get taken. Yeah.
Or maybe that's the best way. I mean, if you think about like some of your older foster children, just like older dogs, sometimes it's hard to get people to adopt older dogs. But maybe the answer is just have really, really old people adopt older people. Like what I'm saying is have like an 88-year-old adopt a 15-year-old. So in 3 years, they'll be 18. It's a perfect setup. Everyone gets what they want.
I actually used to say this when I thought about like people like, oh, do you want kids? And I'd be like, oh, I think a really good scenario would be if I adopted someone that's about to go into med school, because then I have someone that like I can financially support. I don't
Yeah.
need to raise them. And then when I'm dying, I have someone in the medical field that will be my family.
Mhm. It's all about ROI in my book.
Yeah, I
That's
feel like
all
it's
I'm
a
looking for.
win-win, the long
Yeah.
play.
You should also adopt a priest though. That way you'd be covered both ways.
Right. A doctor and a priest.
Doctor and a
Yeah.
priest. So assuming that they get the paperwork to go, how old do you have to be to still be required to have foster parents?
Mm,
Like, is that like in every state rule?
It-
Like, how to be
yeah.
emancipated? Like, is it 18 everywhere, or is it
interesting. It's funny because it's in Alabama. I looked into
Right.
this, and it was, I believe it was 17 in Alabama. So I would
It's
imagine
different
they're
than
probably a
the
little
age of
looser
consent,
there.
I would imagine, right? It's like, or is it?
Well, no,
Right.
that's 15 in Alabama. Let's not kid ourselves. Okay.
Mhm.
There's a reason
That
they
bar's
said Pennsylvania,
low.
not
Right.
Alabama.
Right.
Yeah.
We
There's
don't
no
want.
McKeesport,
Yeah, yeah.
Alabama.
I'm just saying if that's the litmus, then I would imagine it's probably like 18 in order to. But then if you're 18, what's the point? Why
Right.
would you emancipate if you're 18? You're 18. Like just
Yeah.
I mean, are you going to? Is she going to
don't know.
Duquesne
Maybe. Who
University
knows?
of Pittsburgh?
I don't.
I don't know. It just seems
I-
like a real like. I don't think her hippie dippy lifestyle is going to blend with the McKeesport elders.
I mean, she's not going to be able to get carrot juice in
No
McKeesport.
way.
Not that
Oh,
much.
no way.
Not
No.
that
Oh,
much.
you have an Iron City and you enjoy it, and that's all you
Yeah.
can have.
And I can't
Right.
imagine the
Something with
nitty-gritty.
something with coleslaw in it.
Yeah.
And that's it for that. And we only have one more scene in the epilogue. Julie and Sean are saying their goodbyes.
Oh,
Potsy says he hopes to marry Julie one of these days, but not that way.
twist the knife.
No,
Oh, not
God.
me.
That
You
is,
know,
that was the worst. That was
Oh.
just like,
I'd love to walk
Now
down
he
the
kn-
aisle
now
with
he
you
knows that he's going.
metaphorically. Like, oh, you're a
right.
dick, dude. You're
Yeah.
just being such a
He's
jerk.
an asshole.
They totally.
Julie, the only way you can have self-worth is if you find a man, but not
Yeah.
me.
Right. Yeah. They should have cut to like a post scene of like him on the phone with her brother and be like, oh yeah, your sister was really coming on too strong. So I had to tell her I was a priest.
What else was I supposed to do? That's the
Over
only thing I
40.
can think of.
Mickey shows up, says his farewells, and thanks the father. And he does it weirdly. He's like, thanks, Father, for everything. And what did he really do?
Maybe it's all those
Nothing, right?
tranquilizers. He just maybe he had a whole different experience when they left him by himself on tranquilizers in his room after recovering from a heart attack. with
I'd be
no-
like, thanks, Father, for nothing.
yeah,
Right.
thanks. He didn't do shit. He did nothing
Thanks,
for me,
Father,
sir.
thanks, Father, for dicking around when I was having that heart attack
Appreciate it.
to get out of Julie.
Right.
Like I legit thought I was gonna die, and you're trying to deal with this whole situation over
Right.
here.
You
Like,
cock blocked me from Julie. You
Yeah.
let me die. Like this. Like,
Turns out it was not a heart attack, but it was a case of indigestion and too much boogieing, which just confirms what we always thought, which is Doc is not a real doctor. That's
Right.
not
Doc is not.
that's
Right.
not a medical
It's
thing.
not. No.
Plus, he was gone for again 35 seconds.
right.
Well, about how long it takes to do a giant rail of cocaine and just come back. You're like, oh my god, it's a heart attack.
Mickey O'Day just covered like Scarface. Like,
Just giant lines in the hallway. That's what happened. Time matches up. It
and
tracks.
then that's it. Julie says goodbye, and then Beth, to your point about was this the last episode? It had a very like, and that's it. Sad. It was weird.
Right.
Just a weird
Never see
episode.
Julie again.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's
Wow.
the end. Yeah. So totals and a recap. King of the Mountain. Mike, this was not the best episode. But like I said, the more we talk about it, the more I feel like they left a
The
lot
framework
on
was
the table.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was wasted. Wasted
Like Beth, we
opportunity.
always talk about the best episode. What we reference is episode 5, and it's the
Episode
one that we've
5.
had where it had 3 storylines that all hit.
Mm,
And this one, you can argue that the painter hit, and nothing else really hit.
yeah.
So 1 for 3 is not going to make it.
Yeah, this
No,
is a
it's
little
not
bit of
gonna make it.
a rough episode.
Yeah, there was nothing like. Yeah, no, I agree.
Captain of the week, Mike. Who you got? Best of the week.
Oh, the painters, Vincent and Ronald, hands down.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Beth.
Oh, Mr. Miyagi for sure.
Yeah. I agree with you guys. I will, although I feel like as I watched this 3 times, I felt less this way every time. I'm going to go with Bootherton. I feel like he carried that for a while. Also, the fact that he sounded like Burl Ives and the episode probably killed him. Like, I feel like he deserves some credit for that. But like I said, I felt way more strongly about that the first time than I did the second time. So,
if the priest wasn't a real priest and it was like a whole like con the whole time, then that would have been the best.
There you go.
Yeah. And we should, I agree. And we should give a shout out to Mickey O'Day, who was great. So,
yeah.
Creep, a great creep. There's context.
Great creep. Absolutely.
Beth, walk the plank. What was the worst part of this episode?
Oh, Julie. I could not. She was just, I couldn't handle it. She was so desperate, and I hated that. And I hated seeing that portrayal of like a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not wrong, and that is a hard come down because I feel like Julie got Captain of the Week on this thing like a lot in the beginning.
A lot.
We're big Julie fans, but she's on a bit of a downward spiral here.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
Mike, who you got?
I agree with Julie, but I will also say that, the Potsy, the priest character, because he kind of just let her look foolish.
Yeah, he was a chicken shit.
Like where are the Christian values, even if you're thinking about being a priest? Like, to me, that's
no mercy.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that's just being a good person. That's not even a religious thing. Like, hey, let me tell you, just as like I've known you forever. What a D move to not say something and make someone.
Yeah, I'm friends with you. I'm best friends with your brother.
I actually agree with you.
Treat you like this.
I agree with you. He made her feel like he made her look crazy.
Like he kind of strung it out.
Yeah.
Like, maybe, you know what I mean? Like, and then I'm like, what's the purpose of that?
Yeah.
And the only thing I came up with was like, well, that has to be an ego thing. It's got to feel good to
feel wanted.
Get those advances, but no, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, but by not acknowledging it at all in any other scene makes it even worse.
He's the worst. He's the worst.
That's why they definitely needed the good angel. That's why they needed the good angel, bad angel thing. That really made it so much easier to accept it. But you never got to see the torment that Beth is probably right about. He would just stare like a doofus.
It's so weird. But in the end, like, she went through all the stuff and felt absolutely foolish as a result of like the body of that work that went into that.
Yeah,
avoided the whole thing.
And that last dig, you're right. I totally agree with you. I'm changing my vote.
He's just shitty, man.
Yeah, he's a shitty guy.
He's shitty.
He's a coward.
He's a coward, and like, if those are the principles he lives his life by, then maybe he shouldn't be a priest.
Yeah.
Yeah. No way.
Your church is built on sand, my friend.
Just golden rule, man. It's real simple. Just golden rule.
Do unto others. If I was hitting on somebody really hard and they were a priest, I would appreciate if they would tell me. We both are very busy.
Isn't that a sin?
Omission?
Yeah. Priesthood
I don't think
sin.
one of the deadly sins, but
but I can't imagine somebody not saying something. I can't imagine somebody, if you said somebody was a friend or like what, how can you not? And you just go, ooh, there she comes again. What's she gonna do now? Like, it's almost like a joke in a way.
Yeah, it's so rude.
Weird. It's
well, and again, it's also a dick move because even if he didn't want to say the priest thing because he felt like he needed to have a fair crack at it, he could have just hid behind the brother thing.
Yeah. Oh, I can't possibly, because you're right. But he was just like, no, I'm not even gonna use that. I'm just
or anything. Cold. He made no,
That's just cold. Like, there's no emotional impact on him.
He might be a psychopath.
He's looking like
maybe he's a psychopath. Weird. Yeah. Now I really hope he's not a priest.
Boo.
Boo.
All right. Mike, plugs?
Plugs. You can find us the recently renamed, so everything has the same name project. You'll
Oh,
find us
wow.
at
Look at
Loveboat.
us being
Yeah,
professional.
Loveboat Project on Instagram, Twitter. We have a Facebook group, Loveboat Project, and you can email us at theloveboatproject@gmail.com.
Beth,
Love that.
anything you would like to plug?
Oh, I'll give a little plug to my podcast, Feature Not a Bug. It's about career pivots and life choices. Are they features? Are they bugs? You can find me on Instagram at Feature Not a Bug Podcast.
Excellent. It's a great
Awesome.
podcast. Everybody should listen to it.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it
I
out.
have
Thank you,
nothing to
Beth.
plug.
I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Thanks for having me on. This was
That was
awesome.
great.
Thanks for coming on. That's it for episode 12. Next week, I'll give you a little taste. We have newlyweds that include a young Kathy Bates.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yep. So stay tuned for that. Otherwise, thanks everybody for joining. We're halfway done season 1. How about
Halfway
that?
there.
Ring the bell.
Project continue.
We will see you next week. And remember, don't dress like a groupie from the Nitty Gritty Band.
It's just not a good idea.